me some.
Hey, stranger.
Leah, let me know if you can hear me.
This could strengthen our entire solar system. We're counting on you to find out what's happening out there. I'm ready.
Okay, sweet.
There is still plenty of disagreement between you and I. That remains.
Biden, flanked by Harris, and Senator Cory Booker, who says President Trump is ripping apart the fabric of the nation.
Donald Trump wants us to fight on his turf. That's not how we win.
For two candidates just beyond center stage, opportunity and enterprise.
Sarah in this house.
Leon Castro
Yeah, more Cradle reactions are coming.
Is available to everyone.
and entrepreneur Andrew Yang.
The opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
The fiercely
The opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Wow.
What's so bad about not liking math?
the climate crisis.
It's just crazy to me.
For Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi!
in wars.
Most
Yes.
important responsibility that the president has is to serve as commander-in-chief.
And two New Yorkers, Mayor Bill de Blasio
Are you ready to fight for change in America?
Oh yeah. We're ready to fight, Bill de Blasio. Let's see it.
Now, the stage is set for
Hey,
candidates to
somebody
take
get
on
me the
our
charger,
nation.
please. Plug the charger.
Stop playing games with people who are seeking asylum.
Hey. Make sure you don't unplug that, bro.
And the course of
Cool.
American history.
Now it is our turn. We choose
Uh-oh.
our fear. We are the United States of America.
Here we go. I'm just letting everybody know. Just letting everybody know it's time to get on. It is time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. The time has come upon us.
Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world, watching us on CNN, CNN International, CNN en Espanol, CNN.com, and listening on Sirius XM.
Okay, so we got that. We got that up. Posted to Patreon. It is time. Where is everybody? Becky in the house.
Chief political correspondent Dana Bash and Don Lemon, anchor of CNN Tonight.
The 20 Democratic presidential candidates were divided into two groups by random draw.
All right. Dang it. Spilled already? Come on, guys. Dorian, get something. Get something there. Take care of that, my brother. Joe Biden. Hey, give me a Pepsi, please. Joe Biden in the house. Gives a little salute. You think Biden's gonna get slammed tonight? There goes Kamala. Boo! Boo!
You don't like Kamala? Why don't you like Kamala?
Huh?
Why didn't you like Kamala?
She used to laugh about getting black men locked up.
Is she black?
Spartacus himself! This is Sparta!
Isn't she black herself?
Yeah, she is.
Businessman Andrew Yang.
Why? Why would you?
Andrew Yang!
Is he even a U.S. citizen?
The Chinese guy who, what did he say? The Asian guy who likes math? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Asian guy.
Kamala the cop. I don't know who this guy is. This is a guy, he shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there because he has no chance. Wow, Cory Booker is big, bruh. Yeah!
Is that your girl?
That's my person. Go ahead, Sister Minister. Go ahead,
Harris?
Sister Minister.
Is
Come, no, this is Tulsi Gabbard.
Is she for free healthcare?
Yep, she's for universal health. I'm pretty sure. Well, we'll see in a second. I don't know where she is, but I'm pretty sure.
She's darkness.
Who do you want to be president of this?
Washington State Governor Jay Inslee.
Who is this guy?
Some guy who's not
From
going to be
Washington
president.
State.
He has no chance whatsoever.
Your letters better match yours.
Tulsi rocking the. What is this, Michael? Get out of here! I'd probably get
Michael
more
Bay?
votes for president than that guy. I hate this because now the real people are gonna have less and less time to answer.
talk.
Tulsi had to go through all these hoops to get onto the debate stage, but these people get to go on. It's ridiculous.
Why is he wearing brown shoes?
Oh, my man Matthew Maida is in here. Yeah, somebody keep account of how many times the name Trump is invoked. That's a very good point.
Oh, is that what's the last name?
Presentation callers from the
156?
James Europe, VFW Post 2233, and the District 4 Honor Guard. And please remain standing for our national anthem, performed by Grammy and Tony Award-winning singer Dee Dee Bridgewater, who was raised in Flint, Michigan.
Is he nervous or something?
Honor Guard! Who?
This is.
Shh. Be quiet here.
so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
USA! Still get chills every single time. Unbelievable. Good job.
The debate will begin right after this short break.
Whew. Man. I don't care, man. I've always been a sucker for the anthem. It means a lot to a lot of people. A lot of people paid some heavy prices for that flag. I've been around the world, Mr. Ben. I haven't seen a better nation than the US of A. So what does everybody want to see here? So I want to see what Kamala and Corey do with the reparations question. That's one question, because Marianne Williamson was pretty explicit about it, and I want to see how the two black candidates handle that question. I'm very interested to see that. We got Dan in the house. You mustn't have been here then, Vin. Hey, I got nothing but love for Australia. Have I ever been on? No, I've never been to Australia. So maybe Australia is the greatest, but I want to see it. I want the Kamala the Hypocrite Cop versus Sleepy Joe matchup. Yeah, I want to see it. I want to see Kamala talk about prison reform. I don't know how Kamala's going to deal with prison reform, but we shall see. We shall see.
But how is she? But isn't she the one who was laughing about?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to see her.
Is she gonna die? I think. Does she still believe that?
Well, you can never tell what a politician actually believes. They're gonna say whatever they, think you want to hear, so that you can, vote for them. So, I want yelling, loud clapping. I don't care what about. I want to see the DNC also continue to pick and choose winners by giving some candidates 15 minutes of speaking time and other. Yeah. All right, let's do it.
To begin opening statements, but first, a quick review of the ground rules that your campaigns agreed
Can
to
you
earlier
can you
this
guys
evening.
hear at all?
Debate. As moderators, we will attempt to guide the discussion. You will each receive 1 minute to answer questions, 30 seconds for responses and
This
rebuttals,
channel is a
15
disgrace.
additional seconds
Antifa is the way to go.
asks for clarification.
Dirk in the house.
Timing lights will remind you of these limits. Please respect them and please refrain from interrupting other candidates during their allotted time. A candidate infringing on another candidate's time will have his or her time.
Tulsi's really standing out with the all white.
Our audience inside the Fox Theater to try to
You know, if Tulsi was a Republican candidate, they'd be saying that that was some dog whistle to white supremacists, guaranteed.
Let's start with opening statements. You will each receive 1 minute. Mayor Bill de Blasio, please begin.
To the working people of America, tonight I bring you a message of hope. We can make change in this country. I know from personal experience it can be done. When I became the mayor of the nation's largest city, I set us on a path of bold change. They said it couldn't be done, but we gave pre-K to every child for free. We got rid of stop and frisk and we lowered crime. We raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Yes, it can be done. Now, tonight, we have to get to the heart and soul of who we are as Democrats. There are good people on this stage, but there are real differences. Joe Biden told wealthy donors that nothing fundamentally would change if he were president.
Uh-oh.
Kamala Harris said she's not trying to restructure society.
Whoa.
Well, I am. For 40 years, working people have taken it on the chin in this country. For 40 years, the rich have gotten richer, and they paid less and less in taxes.
Okay, so
It cannot
de
go
Blasio,
on. I'm president.
it is opening when after Biden and Kamala.
Tax the
Woo!
hell out of the wealthy. To make this a fairer country, and to make sure it's a country that puts working people first.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Senator Michael Bennett.
Thank you. Last week, I saw one of those Trump signs that says, America, love it or leave it. And it was on the outside of a church.
Wow.
I love America. And I know we can make it better.
Love it or leave it outside of a
Before
church.
coming to the Senate,
Wow.
I ran a large urban school district where most of the kids live in poverty. Those kids have exactly the same hopes that I had. Their parents have exactly the same hopes for them that my parents had for me, and that Susan and I had for our 3 children. But for the last 3 years, we've been consumed by a president who frankly doesn't give a damn about your kids or mine. Mr. President, kids belong in classrooms, not cages. And they deserve something better than a bully in the White House. Let's end this 3-ring circus in Washington. And let's make this election about reclaiming our future for our kids and our democracy. Empty promises won't beat Donald Trump. I can.
Governor Jay Inslee.
He drank a half bottle of NyQuil. Who is this?
I am running for president because the people in this room and the Democrats watching tonight are the last best hope for humanity on this planet. If we make defeating the climate crisis the top priority of the United States, we will have a fighting chance to save ourselves and our children's future.
We're the last best hope on the planet.
My plan is one of
Why is everyone talking about school when they should be trying to abolish abortion?
Clean energy.
I agree with you.
They're all talking about school. Why don't you say, well, babies should have a chance to live?
Well, Democrats generally don't really care that much about abortion. They want abortion to continue. So.
Even Tracy?
Even who?
Even that
Tulsi? I don't know what Tulsi says about
we must
abortion.
confront the fossil fuel industry. I've been working on this for 25 years, and now we know this. We're at a tipping point, and whether we shrink from this challenge or rise to it is the vital question of our time. We Democrats believe we can still do big things in this nation. We can defeat the climate crisis. Let's get to work.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
My grandmother taught me that nothing's impossible. She spent 2 generations organizing women in upstate New York. My mother taught me nothing's impossible. She was one of only 3 women in her law school class and worked with gay couples for basic rights. If you want to get something done, just tell me it's impossible. Got it done. Not impossible. 10 years ago, I was told you couldn't pass health care for our 9/11 first responders, those heroes who raced up the towers when others were coming down. Even when Congress turned its back on them, we kept fighting. Just last week, we made the 9/11 health bill permanent.
Yeah, the dude from Comedy Central got that done, not you.
Beating Donald Trump, definitely not impossible.
Number 1.
We need a nominee who will take on the big fights and win. We need a nominee who doesn't know the meaning of impossible.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, Tulsi! Go ahead, Sister Minister!
Of our country. It's why I enlisted after 9/11. I've served as a soldier for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East, and serve in Congress now for almost 7 years. I know what patriotism is, and I've known many great patriots throughout my life. And let me tell you this, Donald Trump is not behaving like a patriot. As president, I will bring this spirit of real patriotism to the White House, serving the interests of all Americans, not just the rich and powerful. I'll fight for our rights and freedoms of all Americans, upholding these principles in our Constitution upon which our country was founded. Fighting for justice and equality for all. Fighting for every single American, regardless of race or religion, as we strive towards that more perfect union. And as president, I'll bring this unifying spirit of love for country and the soldiers' values of service above self to the White House, truly leading a government of, by, and for the people.
Secretary Julian Castro.
Thank you, Dana, and good evening. You know, just a few days ago, we were reminded and inspired by our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico that public
Fellow
service
Americans
is
in
not
Puerto
primarily
Rico.
about any of us. It's about you and your family. I want you to know that if I'm elected president, that I will work hard every single day.
I know.
So that you and your family can have good health care
I know.
when you need it, so that your children and grandchildren can get a good education, so that they can reach their dreams, and that you can have good job opportunities, whether you live here in a big city like Detroit or in a small town in our country. I know we have a wonderful, special nation, but that too many people are struggling. And I know what that's like too.
We have a special
I
nation.
grew up with a single mom in a poor neighborhood. But like many of you, I don't want to make America anything again. I don't want us to go backward. We're not going back to the past. We're not going back where we came from. We're going to move forward. We're going to make America better than it's ever been in the years to come. Let's do
Wasn't
that
that
together.
Obama's thing? Make
Well,
America.
that Trump's thing was. Hold on, I want to hear this guy.
If you've heard anything about me and my campaign, you've heard that someone is running for president who wants to give every American $1,000 a month. I know this may sound like a gimmick, but this is a deeply American idea, from Thomas Paine to Martin Luther King to today. Let me tell you why we need to do it and how we pay for it. Why do we need to do it? We already automated away millions of manufacturing jobs, and chances are your job could be next. If you don't believe me, just ask an auto worker here in Detroit. How do we pay for it? Raise your hand in the crowd if you've seen stores closing where you live. It is not just you. Amazon is closing 30% of America's stores and malls and paying zero in taxes while doing it. We need to do the opposite
Amazon.
of much of what we're doing right now, and the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
He just. Why?
$1,000 a month for every adult would be $461 million every month right here in Detroit alone. The automation of our jobs is a central challenge facing us today. It is why Donald Trump is our president, and any politician not addressing it is failing the American people.
Senator Cory Booker.
He can yell pretty good.
Last
Spartacus.
week, the President of the United States attacked
Against
an
parties.
American city, calling it a disgusting,
Oh, this
rat-infested, rodent mess. We
It is.
need a nation
Please don't bring that up.
that understands that these tired, old language, the
What are they chanting? What are they chanting?
I don't know.
Stand by, Senator.
I will stand by.
Please stand by.
What are they? What are they?
Please continue, Senator.
Thank you very much. Donald Trump, from Charleston to Baltimore to even the border, is using the tired old language of demagogues, of fearmongers, of racists to try to divide our country against itself. We know who Donald Trump is, but in this election, the question is, who are we as a people? We have serious problems in America. We have deep wounds.
Yeah, like rat infestation. That's a problem.
New York, no, it
We
was
desperately
squirrels.
need
Not
to
rats, but-
heal as a nation and move forward. Because we know in this country that our fates are united,
San Francisco's
that we
also
have a
investing.
common destiny. The call of this election is the call to unite in common cause and common purpose. That's how we will beat Donald Trump. That's how I will beat Donald Trump. And as your president, that's how I will govern and move us forward together.
Senator Kamala Harris.
This is an inflection moment in the history of our country. I think we all know that. This is a moment in time that is requiring us each as individuals and collectively to look in a mirror and ask a question. That question being, who are we? And I think most of us know that part of the answer to that question is we are better than this. So this then becomes a moment that we must fight for the best of who we are. And fight, of course, we will. And this is not a new fight for us as Americans. We have always been prepared to fight for our ideals. We have always been a nation that fights for the best of who we are. And I'll tell you, I come from fighters. My parents met when they were active in the civil rights movement. My sister Maya and I joke, we grew up surrounded by a bunch of adults who spent full time marching and shouting about this thing called justice. And I am prepared to march with you, to fight with you for the best of who we are and to successfully prosecute the case of 4 more years of Donald Trump and against him.
You messed up there.
What'd she say?
Huh.
Tonight, I think Democrats are expecting some engagement here, and I expect we'll get it. I'm running for president to restore the soul of this country. You know, we have a president, as everybody's acknowledged here, every day is ripping at the social fabric of this country. But no one man has the capacity to rip that apart. It's too strong. We're too good. Just look at this stage, made up of very diverse people from diverse backgrounds. Went on to be mayors, senators, governors, congresswomen, members of the cabinet, and yes, even a vice president. Mr. President,
Oh, he's the vice
this
president?
is America. And we are strong and great because of this diversity, Mr. President. Not in spite of it, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, let's get something straight. We love it. We are not leaving it. We are here to stay, and we're certainly not going to leave it to you.
Thank you, Vice President Biden.
Sleepy Joe Biden. Sleepy Joe.
Top priorities for Democratic voters, and that is health care. Senator Harris, this week you released a new health care plan, which would preserve private insurance and take 10 years to phase in. Vice President Biden's campaign calls your plan, quote, a have it every which way approach, and says it's just part of a confusing pattern of equivocating about your health care stance. What do you say to that?
Well, they're probably confused because they've not read it. But the reality is that I have been spending time in this campaign listening to American families, listening to experts, listening to healthcare providers. And what I came away with is a very clear understanding that I needed to create a plan that was responsive to the needs of the American people, responsive to their needs, understanding that insurance companies have been jacking up the prices for far too long, that American families have to be held down by deductibles and co-pays and premiums that can cause them bankruptcy. I listened to the American families who said 4 years is just not enough to transition into this new plan, so I devised a plan where it's going to be 10 years of a transition. I listened to American families who said, I want an option that will be under your Medicare system that allows a private plan.
10 years? Okay, so she's talking about a Medicare for all plan that's going to take an entire decade to really implement.
There will be a public plan under my plan for Medicare.
Which is good. It means that she's thinking it through and she's being realistic, but I think you can do it before an entire freaking decade.
Must be a right and
Yeah,
not
I mean that's like
It's like 20,
I
30.
was in the womb in a decade, so.
In fact, 30 million people are going without access to health care.
Thank you, Senator
Of course,
Harris.
all right. First person to not to cut off.
Is that, the Senator's
To-
had several plans so far.
First person to cut off.
And anytime someone tells you you're going to get something good in 10 years, you should wonder why it takes 10 years. If you notice, there's no talk about the fact that the plan in 10 years will cost $3 trillion. You will lose your employer-based insurance. And in fact, you know, this is the single most important issue facing the public. And to be very blunt and to be very straightforward, you can't beat President Trump with double talk on this plan.
Your response, Senator Harris?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Vice President Biden, you're just simply inaccurate in what you're describing. The reality is that our plan will bring health care to all Americans under a Medicare for All system. Our plan
In
will
a
allow
decade.
people to start signing up on the first day. Babies will be born into our plan, and right now 4 million babies almost are born every day in America. Or
Yeah,
every
if they
year in
escape
America.
your abortion
Under our
mills.
plan, we
Yeah.
will ensure that everyone has access to health care. Your plan, by contrast, leaves out almost 10 million Americans. So I think that you should really think about what you're saying, but be reflective and understand that the people of America want access to health care and do not want cost to be their barrier to getting it.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden.
Yeah, but she didn't address the 10-year thing.
Plan, no matter how you cut it, costs $3 trillion when it is in fact employed. Number one, 10 years from now, after 2 terms of the senator being president, after her time. Secondly, it will require middle-class taxes to go up, not down. Thirdly, it will eliminate employer-based insurance. And fourthly, what happens in the meantime?
I'd like to respond. First of all, the cost of doing nothing is far too expensive. Second, we are now paying $3 trillion a year for healthcare in America. Over the next 10 years, it's probably going to be $6 trillion. We must act. My plan is about immediately
Is she saying that
allowing
next
people to
year?
sign up
Hold on.
and get into coverage. Right now,
Yeah, but it's
in
going to take
America,
10 years. You'd have to get reelected. What if a Republican gets in
seniors
after your
are
first
going to
term?
the system, and they are getting full coverage and the kind of coverage they need. All people should have access to health care, and cost should not
Thank you,
be their
Senator
barrier.
Harris. Mayor de Blasio, let's bring you in here. What's your response?
Thank you. I don't know what the Vice President and Senator are talking about. The folks I talk to about health insurance say that their health insurance isn't working for them. There's tens of millions of Americans who don't even have health insurance. Tens of millions more who have health insurance that can barely make it work because of the co-pays, the deductibles, the premiums, the out-of-pocket expenses. There's this mythology that somehow all these folks are in love with their insurance in America. What I hear from union members and from hardworking middle-class people is they wish they had better insurance. And they're angry at private insurance companies that skim all the profits off the top and make it impossible for everyday people to get coverage like mental health care,
Thank you,
dental
Mr.
care,
Mayor.
the things that would be full
This guy's
coverage
good.
Thank
for
you,
all
Mr.
Americans.
Mayor. Vice President Biden,
This guy
you
is
just heard
gonna-
Mayor de Blasio. He said in the past that Democrats who want to keep the private insurance industry are defending a healthcare system that is not working. What's your response?
My response is Obamacare is working. The way to build this and get to it immediately is to build on Obamacare. Go back and take back all the things that Trump took away, provide a public option, meaning
Obamacare left 30 million people uninsured.
Find an option if they didn't like their employer plan, or if they're on Medicaid, they'd automatically be in the plan. It would take place immediately, it would move quickly, and it would ensure the vast majority of Americans. In the meantime, what happens? Did anybody tell you how much their plans cost? My plans cost $750 billion. That's what it costs, not $30 trillion.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Senator Gillibrand.
Yeah, that's the same Obamacare.
How do you feel about
That's
Senator Harris
ugh.
continuing to call her health proposal Medicare for All when it includes a far more significant role for private insurance than the bill you co-sponsored?
I think for the viewers in the audience right now, they're at risk of losing the forest through the trees. Because the truth is, healthcare in America should be a right. When I was a young mother and had Theo as an infant, he had an allergic reaction to eggs and his whole body turned red and puffy. I had to rush him to the emergency room.
I know.
My heart is palpitating because I'm worried that his throat will close. I am not worried about not having an insurance card or a credit card in my wallet. I know whatever they're going to prescribe, whether it's an EpiPen or an inhaler, I can afford it. The truth about healthcare in America today is people can't afford it. They cannot afford it. And the insurance companies, for these plans that rely on insurance companies, I'm sorry, they're for-profit companies. They have an obligation to their shareholders. They pay their CEO millions of dollars. They have to have quarterly profits. They have fat in the system that's real, and it should be going to healthcare. So let's not lose the forest for the trees. And last, let's not forget what the Republicans are doing. Because the truth is, the Republicans and Trump, their whole goal is to take away your health care. To make it harder for
Trump's whole goal is to take away your health care. It's stupid shit. What do you mean his whole goal is to take away health care?
About the Affordable Care Act.
That's ridiculous.
It's important that you understand that our Medicare for All plan has actually, by the architect of the Obama Affordable Care Act, been described as one of the most effective ways to bring health care to all. Kathleen Sebelius has endorsed our plan as being something that will get us to where we need to go. In terms of the point that Senator Gillibrand is raising, I couldn't agree more. Senator Biden, your plan will keep and allow insurance companies to remain with status quo, doing business as usual. And that's going to be about jacking up copays, jacking up deductibles. It will still be the situation that people going to an emergency room have to come out $5,000.
My plan makes the limit of copay to be $1,000 because we further support.
Who can afford $1,000 copay? Average American is living check to check, Biden.
This is somehow a bad idea. No one has to keep their private insurance. But if they would like their insurance, they should be able to keep it. Nothing is demanded in my plan that there be private insurance. It says if the 160 million people who have it say they like their employer insurance,
Get Tulsi involved. Get Tulsi involved.
They can buy into the Biden plan, which is Obamacare.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you. Senator Booker, let me bring you in here. You say you support Medicare for all. You also say you are not going to pull private health insurance from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for a government plan. But that's what Medicare for all would do. So how do you square that?
Well, first of all, let me just say that the person that's enjoying this debate most right now is Donald Trump, as we pit Democrats against each other while he is working.
It's a debate, Corey. It's a debate.
Court case working through the system that's going to gut the Affordable Care Act and actually cut protections on pre-existing conditions. And so I was raised by two civil rights parents who told me always keep your eyes on the prize. And that is that in the United States of America, every Democrat should stand with the belief that everyone should have access to health care, that it's a human right. And how we get there, it has to be to end this broken system, because we are on our way in just a handful of years of literally spending 20% of our economy, one out of every $5 spent on healthcare. And we spend more than every other nation on everything from MRIs to insulin drugs, multiple more than other countries. And so you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work to get us to a point where Medicare for all, where everyone is covered. But this pitting against progressives, against moderates, saying one is unrealistic and the other doesn't care enough, that to me is dividing.
It's a debate.
Us in face of the real.
It's a debate. That's what it's called, the presidential debate. You're supposed to debate. You have to argue with each other.
Here we go.
Here we go.
The reality is right now we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system, and there are far too many people in this country who are sick and unable to get the care that they need because they cannot afford it. So the core of this problem is the fact that big insurance companies and big pharmaceutical companies who've been profiting off the backs of sick people have had a seat at the table writing this legislation.
Now, Kamala Harris just talked about Kathleen Sebelius, who helped write her bill. This just pointed to the fatal flaw in her proposal. Sebelius works for Medicare Advantage, private insurance company who will stand to profit under her plan. If we're seeking to reform our healthcare system, we've got to shut out big insurance and big pharma out of the drafting process so they cannot continue to profit off the backs of the sick people in this country who are searching.
Go ahead, Sister Minister.
Senator Harris, your response?
Go ahead, Sister Minister.
Yep.
Representative Gabbard got it wrong. Kathleen Sebelius did not write my plan. She endorsed it as being one of the plans that is the best to get us to a place where everyone is going to have access
Deal with
to
it.
care in America.
She's got a vested interest in supporting your plan.
Because your plan does not cover everyone.
So she's dodging Tulsi and going back after Sleepy Joe. Wow.
10 million people, as many as 10 million people, will not have access to health care. And in 2019 in America, for a Democrat to be...
Are y'all seeing how she dodged Tulsi? Am I the only one that's seeing how she dodged Tulsi?
I see it too.
Thank you, Senator Vice President Biden, your response.
No! Go back to Tulsi! Wow!
The fact is that my plan also calls for controlling drug prices.
Is everybody else seeing this, or is this all in my head? Did she just dodge the Tulsi thing completely?
Yes.
Wow.
Wait, hold on.
Excuse me, immune system. And what we have
Man,
to
if
do
those
is
Trump
we
just
have
told
to
you,
have
that'd be
a
nice.
fund that sits in the HHS and says, as you develop a drug, you got to come to us and decide what you can sell it for. We will set the price.
Seems like a good idea.
Secondly, it says that you cannot raise that price beyond the cost of inflation from this point on.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to bring in Senator Bennett.
That's a good plan.
Last night on this stage, one of your Democratic rivals...
And now we're off of Tulsi. I cannot believe that. That is insane.
I feel bad for Tulsi.
That is insane.
I feel bad for Tulsi.
Unlike others on this stage,
looks
I'm
artificial.
crystal clear where I've been for a decade through two
Maybe
tough
he's a robot.
races in Colorado. I believe we should finish the job we started with the Affordable Care Act with a public auction that gives...
Okay, so you want to go back to Obamacare. Boo. You're done.
Private insurance or public insurance. It requires drug companies to be negotiated with by Medicare, and it provides competition. That is totally different from the plan that Senator Warren and Senator Sanders and Senator Harris have proposed.
What about Gabbard?
Make illegal employer-based health insurance in this country and massively raise taxes on the middle class to the tune of $30 trillion,
Yeah.
as Joe Biden said.
Alec goes, this guy looks like he just woke up from a nap. So Tulsi goes, slices and dices Kamala. Kamala says she didn't write it, she just endorsed it. Doesn't talk about the financial ramifications of why she would endorse it. Completely dodges all of that, and then goes after Biden. It's almost like them and CNN are in it together. Tulsi, get more aggressive.
Well, I know that this is something very personal for all Americans. You know, I grew up with a grandmother that had diabetes, and I watched as the condition got worse and worse. That whole time, she had Medicare. I want to strengthen Medicare for the people who are on it and then expand it to anybody who wants it. I also believe, though, that if somebody has a private health insurance plan that is strong, that they want to hold on to, that they should be able to do that. What I don't believe is that the profit motive of big pharma or big insurance companies should ever determine in our great nation whether somebody gets health care or not.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Senator Harris, Senator Bennett had suggested that you...
Back to Harris again? What the hell is happening?
Well, first of all, with all due respect to my friend Michael Bennett, my plan does not offer anything that is illegal. What it does is it separates the employer from health care, meaning that where you work will not be the kind of health care you get will not be a function of where you work. I have met so many Americans who stick to a job that they do not like, where they are not prospering, simply because they need the health care that employer provides. It's time that we separate employers from the kind of health care people get, and under my plan, we do that. As it relates to the insurance and the pharmaceutical companies, who will not be called in and who will not be taken to task by Senator Biden or Senator Bennett's plan, we will do that.
Senator Bennett, I want to bring you back.
Senator Harris is my friend as well, but I have to say, if we can't admit tonight what's in the plan, which is banning employer-based insurance, We're not going to be able to admit that when Donald Trump is accusing Democrats of doing that as well. We need to be honest about what's in this plan. It bans employer-based insurance and taxes the middle class to the tune of $30 trillion. Do you know how much that is? That is 70% of what the government will collect in taxes over the next 10 years. We
Yikes.
don't need to do that.
Governor,
We can have
I'm going to come to you in a second, but I do want to
universal health care in this country.
I do want to bring in Senator Harris because he just suggested you were not being honest.
We cannot keep with the Republican talking points on this. You gotta stop. The reality is that under my Medicare for All plan, yes, employers are not gonna be able to dictate.
If a Republican says 2 + 2 = 4, guess what? It equals 4. I don't care whose talking point it is. Is it factual or not?
Play by our rules, will be able to offer those employees
Wow.
health care coverage under a private Medicare plan, or they can have the option of a public Medicare plan. But
CNN is the new Russia.
suggest that employees want what their employer is offering only. They want choice, and my plan gives that to them.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Inslee, I want to bring you in. You recently signed
This guy, another X-Men bad guy who has no chance. He'll probably get to talk more than Tulsi.
They want to, but this may only save families in Washington State as little as 5% off premiums. Is 5% really the kind of relief that the American people need?
No, we need universal coverage, and I'm proud of our state that has done less squabbling and actually getting things done. And I'm proud that we were the first state to offer a publicly sanctioned offer of health care to our citizens. I'm also proud that
Hey, Merba47 is the guy that does all my music. All the background music that you hear in the Middle America videos, that's all Merba. Thank you very much, Merba. You're the man.
I'm also proud of this, and I think we need to talk more about this as Democrats. It is time to give people adequate mental health care in this country. And we are...
Oh my gosh, we need to get people mental health care. Let's start with you. What the hell possessed you to think that you could run for president? You're taking time away from Tulsi. Get off the stage.
And the last thing we're doing, I think, is very
If a Republican asks what 2 + 2 is, outside of my purview.
life-saving medications in the United States. That's a record of Washington State. I'd like to take to Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Governor Inslee. Mr. Yang, I want to bring you in. You support Medicare for all.
Where's Tulsi?
Well, I just want to share a story. When I told my wife I was running for president, you know the first question she asked me?
Don't.
What are we going to do about our health care? That's a true story, and it's not just us. Democrats are talking about health care the wrong way. As someone who's run a business, I can tell you flat out our current health care system makes it harder to hire. It makes it harder to treat people well and give them benefits and treat them as full-time employees. It makes it harder to switch jobs, as Senator Harris just said, and it's certainly a lot harder to start a business. If we say, look, we're going to get healthcare off the backs of businesses and families, then watch American entrepreneurship recover and bloom. That's the argument we should be making to the American people.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Mayor de Blasio.
Yeah, I don't understand
why Yang doesn't have a...
Oh, this is actually the guy. Isn't he the guy who got free pre-care for a while?
Hold on. They feel it's holding back their families because they can't get the coverage they need. They get a lot of no's. They don't get a lot of help from health insurance companies. Why are we not going to be the party that does something bold, that says we don't need to be dependent on private insurance? We can have a system that actually covers everyone. You know what? Donald Trump won this state of Michigan by saying he was going to disrupt the status quo. How about we be the party that's going to disrupt the status quo for working people?
Mr. Mayor,
This is so
just a 15-second point of clarification. Who are you talking about? Who's fear-mongering?
CNN just banned a bunch of streams over at Twitch.
About taxes. Americans right now are paying so much money for their health care. Ask people about the reality of premiums, deductibles, co-pays, out-of-pocket expenses. That's worse than any tax.
Thank you.
And people are paying that right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senator Bennett.
Yang might be 20 steps ahead of me. I just don't understand what his solution was. Get more small businesses, and then everybody will be covered. Was that his argument?
This has to do with having faith in the American people that they can make the right decisions for their families and they can choose a public option. Bernie Sanders, who said last night he wrote the damn bill and he did it just like I wrote the damn public option bill,
is the guy who says it'll cost $32 trillion and then we're going to have to raise those taxes to pay for it. He says that. Republicans don't say. Don't try to.
Oh, okay. All right, Ben. So, but what does that mean? How does he plan to relieve the small businesses of the health care costs?
We're done with private insurance that has only hurt the American people in so many ways. We're going to give them something that works for their families, full coverage that they can depend on.
Okay.
Say that. Then there's an election. The American people get to
So you
decide.
cover everybody. Yeah, you're gonna take a hit economically to cover everybody, but the other side of that is you'll have more small businesses, so that'll. Okay, that makes sense.
Tens of millions of people, including middle-class people. Give them a chance to make that decision through an election.
Vice President Biden, your response, sir.
This is not a Republican talking point. The Republicans are trying to kill Obamacare. Obamacare took care of 20 million people right off the bat. 100 million
Also left 30 million people uninsured, Mr. Biden.
Public option that in fact would allow anybody to buy in. No one has to keep the private insurance. They can buy into this plan, and they can buy into it with $1,000 deductible and never have to pay more than 8.5% of their income when they do it. And if they don't have any money, they'll get in free. So this idea is a bunch of malarkey.
Malarkey. With your $1,000 copay, Biden.
I actually like Biden's plan.
He's got $1,000 copay. The average American can't even afford $500. It's the same situation.
He'll fix it.
Okay, so this is your guy. You like Biden? No, it's good. I'm glad.
Maybe you like the same people.
But I tell you, that's a lot of money, and there will be a deductible. The deductible will be out of your paycheck because that's what will be required.
Senator Harris, I want to bring you in here. Your response.
Yeah, let's talk about
What about
math.
Hubbard?
Let's talk about math.
Oh, this again?
That the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance
Well, Tappy Toes, I haven't heard anything about inflation. I need to hear about inflation with Ying's idea.
on the backs of American families. And under your plan, status quo, you do nothing to hold the insurance companies to task for what they have been doing to American families in America today.
That's a good point, Ron.
Patients 1 in 4 cannot afford their insulin. In America today, for those people who have overdosed from an opioid, there is a syringe that costs $4,000 that will save their life. It is
Yep,
a
Narcan.
it is
I'm very familiar with
and
it.
it must change with Medicare for all.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Real quick. I am the only
In 10 years.
limits the ability of insurance companies to charge unreasonable prices. Flat out.
She didn't even know what Narcan was.
We should put something in
She's like, there's a pen that costs for. She didn't even know because she doesn't deal with people that OD on
9
opiates.
billion opioids they sell out there. They are misrepresenting the American people.
Joe Budden would be a better president than Joe Biden. That's the quote of the night so far.
Anybody who wants to get off of their insurance plan they don't like, no matter what
We'll need that $1,000 a month Ying is going to give us to pay for Biden's deductible.
plan, they're not going to have to.
This is great. You guys are great.
Vice President, thank you. Let's move now to immigration, please. Secretary Castro. you
That's
think
it?
should no
That-
longer
that's
be a
it.
crime to
Wow.
cross the US border.
Okay, so now we're talking about decriminalization, which is basically.
Johnson, whom you served with, says that is a public declaration that the border is, quote, effectively open to all. How
Wow.
is he wrong?
That one.
Thank you for that
What do you
question.
want?
You know,
This?
Yep.
if you
Or
want to be
this?
president,
What do you
you're
want?
electing
This.
me to
Thanks.
follow.
It's
You're electing me to lead.
here.
And
Thanks.
open borders is
You
a
have that
right
one. We'll
talking
share that
point.
one.
And frankly, I'm disappointed that some folks, including some folks on the stage, have taken the bait. The only way that we're going to guarantee that we don't have family separations
That is open borders, though.
is to
That's not a Republican talking point. That's a fact. It's open borders. If you decriminalize it, then you just effectively made it open borders.
to incarcerate migrant parents and then physically separate them from their children. My immigration plan would also make sure that we put undocumented immigrants who haven't committed a serious crime on a pathway to citizenship, that we do a 21st century Marshall Plan with Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, so that we can get to the root of this challenge, so people can find safety and opportunity at home instead of having to come to the United States. That's how we can be smarter, more effective, and more humane when it comes to immigration policy.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Senator Bennett, what's your response?
I disagree that we should decriminalize our border. This is personal for me. My mom's an immigrant, and she was separated from her parents during the Holocaust in Poland. And for those reasons, I was part of the Gang of Eight that I wrote the immigration bill in 2013 with John McCain that passed the Senate with 68 votes. That gave a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented people that are here. That would pass the most progressive DREAM Act that had ever been conceived, much less passed on the floor of the Senate, and had $46 billion of border security. Every single Democrat voted for that bill, and a lot of Republicans. That should be our position.
Thank you, Senator.
That is our position.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Harris, you have indicated that you don't think it should be a criminal offense punishable by jail to cross the U.S. border illegally.
Punishable by jail.
Senator Bennett.
Well, again, with all due
Republican
respect,
talking points.
After the
Why
last
is
debate, for
Tulsa
example,
getting
I went to
ignored?
a place in Florida called Homestead. And there is a private detention facility being paid for by your taxpayer dollars. A private detention facility that currently houses 2,700 children. And by the way, there were members of us, Julian was there, members of Congress. They would not let us enter the place, members of the United States Congress. So I walked down the road, I climbed a ladder, and I looked over the fence. And I'm gonna tell you what I saw. I saw children lined up single file based on gender, being walked into barracks. The policies of this administration have been facilitated by laws on the book that allow them to be
I used to live in Florida. When the guys came over from Cuba, we saw it on the news. They put it in the news all the time, and they sent them right to those facilities. That was long before Trump ever showed up. God almighty.
I think this is one in the end that there's not a single person on this stage who, if we were president, would ever separate a child from their parents at the border. And that is what this administration has done in the American people's name. They have turned our border into a symbol of nativist hostility. The symbol of this country before Donald Trump was president was the Statue of Liberty. That should be the symbol of the United States of America, not Donald Trump.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. Senator Joe, what's your response?
So I think we talk about whether this should be a crime. You have to remember who we're talking about. When I was at the Texas border, I visited with women who had fled violence. A woman from El Salvador owned a small business. Gangs came to her and said, if you don't give us all your money, we're going to kill your family. That's why she fled. Another woman was raped. That's why she fled. So this is who we're talking about, and they're not criminals. So I believe that we should have a civil violation. No president before President Trump enforced the law in the way he has enforced it, because he's using it as the crutch to lock up women and children, to separate mothers and babies, to put them behind bars. So I don't think we should have a law on the books that can be so misused. It should be a civil violation, and we should make sure that we treat
Get this
people
to your mom and
Senator.
tell her to charge my phone. Please. Give me a kiss.
In the first 2 years of the Obama administration,
Come back quick.
nearly 800,000 immigrants were deported, far more than during President Trump's first 2 years. Would the higher deportation rates resume if you're president?
Absolutely not, number one. Number two, everything landed on the president's desk but locust. I found that, the secretary, we sat together in many meetings. I never heard him talk about any of this when he was the secretary.
Please be respectful. Please be respectful in the crowd. Please continue, Mr. Vice President.
3 million deportation. I think they're talking about Obama and Obama being the deporter in chief, which is true.
The fact is, what the
Tell her to
senator
call
from
it.
New York talked about is seeking asylum. That woman, the women she spoke to, are entitled to asylum. That is not crossing the border illegally. What we should do is flood the zone to make sure we have people that will make those decisions quickly. With regard to the secretary's point, I already proposed and passed $750 million for Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras to be able to change the circumstance why people fled in the first place. In addition to that, we're in a circumstance where, if in fact you say you can just cross the border, what do you say to all those people around the world who, in fact, want the same thing to come to the United States and make their case, but they know that they have to wait in line? The fact of the matter is, you should be able to, if you cross the border illegally, you should be able to be sent back. It's a crime. It's a crime, and it's not one that, in fact...
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Secretary Castro, please.
First of all, Mr. Vice President, it looks like one of us has learned the lessons of the past, and one of us hasn't. Let me begin by
one of us learned our lesson, the other hasn't. Here's Sleepy Joe.
would also fix the broken legal immigration system, because we do have a problem with that. Secondly, the only way that we're going to guarantee that these kinds of family separations don't happen in the future is that we need to repeal this law. There's still going to be consequences if somebody crosses the border. It's a civil action. Also, we have 654 miles of fencing. We have thousands of personnel at the border. We have planes, we have boats, we have helicopters, we have security cameras. What we need are politicians that actually have some guts on this issue.
Thank you, Secretary. Mr. Vice President, please, your response.
I have guts enough to say his plan doesn't make sense.
You go, Biden.
That in fact, when people cross the border illegally, it is illegal to do it unless they're seeking asylum. People should have to get in line. That's
Makes a
the
lot of
problem.
good points.
And the only
How could you
reason
not
this
like him?
particular part of the law is being abused because of Donald Trump. We should defeat Donald Trump and end this practice.
He's the problem. You weren't part of the administration that sent the most people back.
Hearts break when we see those children at these detention facilities who've been separated from their parents. When we see human beings crowded into cages in abhorrent, inhumane conditions. This is about leadership and understanding that we can and should have both secure borders as well as humane immigration policies. We will have to stop separating children from their parents. Make it so that it's easier for people to seek asylum in this country. Make sure that we are securing our borders and making it so that people are able to use our legal immigration system by reforming those laws.
Mr. Yang, your response.
I'm the son
Yeah.
of immigrants myself. My father immigrated.
That was a
here
weak
as
answer in my
graduate
opinion.
student and generated over 65 U.S. patents for GE and IBM. I think that's a pretty good deal for the United States. That's the immigration story we need to be telling. We can't always be focusing on some of the
Did he just say when people cross the border illegally, it is illegal to do so? I think he did.
robots and machines. Immigrants are being scapegoated for issues they have nothing to do with in our economy.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Senator Booker.
Burn man, that was a weak response from Tulsi. I agree.
Eliminate immigration detention. Does that mean that the roughly 55,000 migrants...
Why does everybody say look away from his eyes once he starts talking?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, again, tonight, we are playing into Republican hands, who have a very different view, and they're trying to divide us against each other.
It's a debate, you idiots! It's a debate!
People cross the border. An unlawful crossing is an unlawful crossing. If you do it in the civil courts, or if you do it through the criminal courts. But the criminal courts is what is giving Donald Trump the ability to truly violate the human rights of people coming to our country who no one surrenders their human rights. And so doing it through the civil courts means that you won't need these awful detention facilities that I have been to, seeing children sleeping on pavement, people being put in cages, nursing mothers, small children. This is not necessary. We have seen, using the civil system, piloted programs that have 100% compliance with the civil courts, where people are evaluated. If they have no justifiable reason to be here, they are returned. If they are, the people I met in Juarez, who were survivors of sexual assault, who we wouldn't even let come and present for asylum. We are butchering our values and making ourselves
Senator Booker,
less
thank you
safe.
very much. Mr. Vice President, your response.
I agree with the senator. The asylum process is a real process, and this president is ruining it. It has nothing to do with that section of the law. That's what he's doing, number one. Number two, we should, in fact, and we have proposed and we tried to get past in our administration, I propose, significantly increasing the number of legal immigrants who are able to come. This country can tolerate a heck of a lot more people. And the reason we're the country we are is we've been able to cherry pick from the best of every culture. Immigrants built this country. That's why we're so special. It took courage. It took resilience. It took absolute confidence for them to come. And we should be encouraging people. And by the way, anybody who crosses the stage with a PhD should get a green card for 7 years. We should keep them here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Governor Inslee, what's your response?
I think we're missing two central statements we need to make.
I can't stop laughing every time I see this guy.
White nationalists to be in the White House. Number one.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We can't allow a white nationalist.
Number two, we have to make America what it's always been, a place of refuge. We got to boost the number of people we accept. I'm proud of being the first governor saying, send us your Syrian refugees. I'm proud to have been the first governor to stand up against Donald Trump's Muslim ban. I'm proud to have sued him 21 times and beat him 21 times in a row. I'm ready for November 2020.
Go ahead, Mayor de Blasio, please, your response.
2 points. One, it's all kind of a charade because there's 11 million people here, and everyone in theory has broken the law, but they're part of our communities now. They're part of our economy. They're our neighbors. Why are we even discussing on one level whether it's a civil
Right, I blame gravity. I agree. The Democrats don't have a strategy about immigration that's obvious.
and for all to fix it? Second, Vice President Biden, I didn't hear your response when the issue came up of all those deportations. You were Vice President of the United States. I didn't hear whether you tried to stop them or not, using your power, your influence. Did you think it was a good idea, or do you think it was something that needed to be stopped?
The president came along, and he's the guy that came up with the idea, first time ever, of dealing with the Dreamers. Put that in
So now he wants to throw Obama under the bus.
He talked about a comprehensive plan which he put on laid before the Congress, saying that we should find a pathway to citizenship for people. He said we should up the number of people that we're able to bring.
Deporter-in-chief.
Lastly, he also pointed out that
Deporter-in-chief. Biden.
and fix it where people were leaving in the first place. So he did. To compare him to Donald Trump, I think, is absolutely bizarre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice
Okay, he did answer the question. He did answer the question. He did answer the question.
Universities free for all Americans. One of the authors of that plan, Senator Sanders, believes college should be tuition free for undocumented immigrants as well. Do you?
I don't. I think it's important for us to fix our legal immigration system and look at the millions of undocumented immigrants in this country who have been suffering as they've been living in the shadows. And instead of putting a Band-Aid on this problem, fix our legal immigration system to provide them with that pathway to legal residency or citizenship so that they're no longer treated as second-class citizens in this country. We've got to look at the challenge that people all across this country are facing under crushing student debt. This is something that is impacting my generation in a huge way, and I believe that it is our generation that has the bold, creative solutions to be able to solve it. This is about promise for our future, and we've got to make those kinds of investments.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
I want free college for the top 20 income-producing majors in America. And if we get an undocumented person, that they have to commit to working in America so that we can get a return on our investment.
Mr. Vice President, you want to be President of the United States, you need to be able to
Answer the question. Get him.
I guarantee you, if you're debating Donald Trump, he's not going to let you off the hook. So did you say those deportations were a good idea?
Good. Talk about the deportations. Good. I like this guy.
Vice President, I am not the president. I keep my recommendation in private. Unlike you, I expect you to go ahead and say whatever was said privately with him. That's not what I do. What I do say to you is he moved to fundamentally change the system.
He ducked again.
That's me, but much more has to be done. Much more has to be
He
done.
ducked the question.
Please respond.
Well, a couple things. First of all, Mr. Vice President, you can't have it both ways. You invoke President Obama more than anybody in this campaign.
Stop it, Corey. You're being divisive.
And then dodge it when it's not.
You're being divisive.
This really irks me because I heard the Vice President say that. If you've got a PhD, you can come right into this country. Well, that's playing into what the Republicans want, to hit some immigrants.
Not what the Republicans.
Some are from shithole countries, and some are from worthy countries. We need to reform this whole immigration system and begin to be the country that says everyone has worth and dignity, and this should be a country that honors everyone. Don't let the Republicans divide this party against the
You just slammed Biden.
We are a country of immigrants. All of us. All of us. Some here came against their will. Others came because they thought they could fundamentally change their lives. And they did.
Some here came against their will.
That's what we're talking about.
That's not immigration, sir.
That's great. And the fact of the matter is, I think the President of the United States, Barack Obama, went out of his way to try to change the system, and he got pushed back significantly.
Right, Kellen Dross.
What's your response?
Right, Kellen Dross. Nobody's allowed to... Look at Gillibrand. She's shaking her head.
Again, President Trump, under his administration, 7 children died in his custody. Under his administration, families have been torn apart. This party is talking about real ideas for the future.
I gotta say about Tulsi, she's gotta be more aggressive. If they're not gonna give it to you, you gotta take it, Tulsi. You gotta get a little bit nasty with these people. You're going up against Donald Trump. Stop being so polite.
Let's remind the American people who we are, why we are Democrats, and why we're running for president.
Senator Gillibrand, thank you very much. The debate will be back right after this short.
Oh my gosh, what a disaster. Okay, right now, I don't really know who the clear winner. I mean, I at this point, you just have to go with Kamala, I guess, because they're giving her the most time. But Tulsi's got to get aggressive here and get some time, and she needs to call out CNN for not giving her time. I mean, you're gonna if you win the Democratic nomination, you're going up against Donald Trump. Like, you've got to have some fight in you. You can't just sit there and passively let these people walk all over you. When what's her face? When Kamala completely dodged her question, she just stayed quiet and smiled. When Biden dodged de Blasio's question, he said, you gotta answer this question, bruh. You gotta get aggressive, Tulsi. What are you doing?
So was Joe Biden the vice president for Obama?
Mm-hmm. Is Yang really going on drink champs? That would be cool. Yeah, he was the vice president under Obama, and Obama was called the deporter in chief. And so de Blasio was saying, well, what the hell were you doing when your man was deporting all those people? First, he dodged the question, and then he's like, I'm not going to talk about my private discussions with the president. Stop it. Stop it. Trump is going to eat you alive with that. You think Trump is going to obey any of these rules when you have a clear dodge like that? Come on, man. Democrats are too busy posting tweets to know actually how to actually fight. That's obvious.
Cory's terrible.
Cory Booker, you don't like him?
Do you like him?
M. Death fan, you should be tweeting her, Vin, instead of talking to her through the stream. Biden Obama ticket 20. Oh, God, help us. Trump is going to destroy Biden. He's going to destroy Biden. The left can't meme. It's true. They don't know how to do politics. It's obvious. It's obvious. Tulsi's being too nice, man. You gotta get in there. Good Lord. That's what I'm saying, Sarah. That's what I've been saying in the last couple Middle America episodes. It's like there's got to be a Trump mole in the DNC somewhere. There has to be. Because there's no other explanation. The candidates performed a lot better last night. Bernie was strong. I don't get why he lost your support. He lost my support because he started selling out. And that's why he lost my support. And he's got staffers that quit because they can't afford a living wage.
I want to turn now to criminal justice of Mr.
Uh-oh.
President. Senator solution to what is a raging crisis in our country, unquote. Why is Senator Booker wrong?
Well, I think he is wrong. I think we should work together. He has a similar plan. I think that we should change the way we look at prisons. Right now, we're in a situation where when someone is convicted of a drug crime, they end up going to jail and to prison. They should be going to rehabilitation. They shouldn't be going to prison. When in prison, they should be learning to read and write and not just sitting there and learn how to be better criminals. And when they get out of prison, they should be in a situation where they have access to everything they would have had before, including Pell Grants for education, including making sure that they're able to have housing, public housing, including they have all the opportunities that were available to them because we want them to become better citizens. That's the essence of what my plan in detail lays out. I'm happy to discuss it more in detail if the senator want to. And so I looked at it anyway. That's what I think my plan. I know what my plan does, and I think it's not dissimilar to what the senator said. We should be working together on getting things done.
Senator Booker, your response?
Well, my response is that this is a crisis in our country because we have treated issues of race and poverty, mental health and addiction with locking people up and not lifting them up. And Mr. Vice President has said that since the 1970s, every major crime bill, major and minor, has had his name on it. And sir, those are your words, not mine. And this is one of those instances where the house was set on fire and you claimed responsibility for those laws. And you can't just now come out with a plan to put out that fire. We have got to have far more bold action on criminal justice reform, like having true marijuana justice, which means that we legalize it on a federal level and reinvest the profits in communities that have been disproportionately targeted by marijuana.
Your time's up.
I want to give you a chance to respond.
The fact is that the bills that the future president here,
He just called Cory Booker the future president. He just surrendered the campaign to Cory Booker.
I think he's being sarcastic, Colin.
No, he's being old and senile. This is your guy.
I think he's being sarcastic.
This is your guy.
He's being sarcastic.
You went out and you hired Rudy Giuliani's guy. You engaged in stop and frisk. You had 75% of those stops reviewed as illegal. You found yourself in a situation where 3 times as many African American kids were caught in that chain and caught up. The Justice Department came after you for saying you were engaging in behavior that was inappropriate, and then in fact, and nothing happened.
Oh no! Somebody killed the internet.
The entire time you were mayor.
Thank you, Senator Booker. You want to respond?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful that he endorsed my presidency already, but I'll tell you this. It's no secret that I inherited a police department with massive problems and decades-long challenges. But the head of the ACLU has already said, the head of the New Jersey ACLU, that
I don't think it was sarcasm. I think he screwed up, and that was the best he could do to recover. He's senile. Him and Mueller, both senile.
A system right now that's broken. And if you want to compare records, and frankly, I'm shocked that you do, I am happy to do that he is talking about, that he created, actually led the bill that got passed into law that reverses the damage that you're bragging, Mr. Vice President. You were bragging, calling it the Biden crime bill up to 2015.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Biden.
Where's my phone? Get my phone.
The bill he talks about is a bill that in my administration we passed.
Tell your mom to kill the internet on her phone.
That's the bill, in fact, we passed.
Where's my phone?
And the fact of the matter is, secondly, there was nothing done for the entire 8 years he was mayor. There was nothing done to deal with the police department that was corrupt. Why did you announce in the first day a zero tolerance policy of stop and frisk and hire Rudy Giuliani's guy in 2007 when I was trying to get rid of the crack cocaine?
Mr. Vice President,
wow.
in my community, you're dipping into Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor. You need to come to the city of Newark and see the reforms that we put in place. The New Jersey head of the ACLU has said that I embraced reforms, not just in action, but in deed. Sir, you are trying to shift the...
Yeah, but did you support stop and frisk or no? Okay, can you put it back?
In prison for life for drug offenses because you stood up and used that tough on crime, phony rhetoric that got a lot of people elected, but destroyed communities like mine. This isn't about the past, sir. This is about the present right now. I believe in
Thank you,
redemption.
Senator.
I'm happy you evolved.
I want to bring in
but
Secretary.
you offered no redemption to the people in
I wanna-
prison right now.
I want to bring in Secretary Castro. Your response, sir?
You know, I agree with Senator Booker that a lot of what Vice President helped author in '94 was a mistake, and he has flip-flopped on these things, and that's clear. But let me say,
Yeah, so Biden helped with the crime bill, the Hillary Black Kids are Super Predators crime bill that destroyed our community.
You know, I don't like Biden anymore.
That's your guy.
I said I lost lines with him.
broken, and we need to fix it. And whether it's the case of someone like Tamir Rice or Michael Brown or Eric Garner, where the Trump Justice Department just decided not to pursue charges, we need to ensure we have a national use of
So what?
standard, and that we
So what? A whole bunch of cop shootings happened during Obama that didn't result in anything either. Ridiculous.
Let me suggest that people come out to the state of Washington and see what criminal justice reform looks like. Our effort to reduce racial disparity. I'm proud that I was the first governor to offer pardons to thousands of people with drug crimes. Now we're vacating more tens of thousands. We've eliminated the death penalty. And importantly, we've done this. When people come out of the legal system and they've done their responsibility to the citizens, we need to make sure they get a job. We have banned the box so that people can actually get a job when they come out. And I've got to argue with my friend Secretary Castro. We haven't just put forward a plan. We've adopted probably one of the best police accountability measures and train our police officers in de-escalation techniques so we have less violence.
Secretary Castro, your response to Governor Inslee?
Well, that it's much more than that, because what we see, and this was a good example the other day of the Department of Justice not going after Officer Pantaleo. That, Officer Pantaleo used a chokehold that was prohibited by NYPD. He did that for 7 seconds, 11 different times. Eric Garner said that he couldn't breathe. He knew what he was doing, that he was killing Eric Garner, and yet he has not been brought to justice. That police officer should be off the street.
Mayor de Blasio?
All that shit happened under Obama's reign. Obama didn't do anything for black people. I want to know that though, de Blasio. Why is he on the force?
Let me tell you, I know the Garner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They are waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that. In the next 30 days in New York. You know why? Because for the first time, we are not waiting on the federal Justice Department, which told the city of New York that we could not proceed because the Justice Department was pursuing their prosecution. And years went by, and a lot of pain accrued. And in the meantime, what I'm working on is making sure, and I have for 5 years, there will never be another tragedy. There will never be another.
You're full of shit. That happened under the Obama administration, Mr. De Blasio. You didn't do shit then. These people are so crazy.
Tell us, what did you do to try and spur on the Justice Department to act in Garner?
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Vice President Biden, you can respond to that.
We did a lot. Number one, we made sure we reduced the federal prison population by 38,000 people. Number one.
What's that to do with Eric Garner?
We in fact insisted that we change the rules that
None of that has anything to do with Eric Garner.
they had that we provided for body cameras. We made sure that there were a lot of things that was in the process. 38,000 people in the federal system were released under the system. And so the fact is that there's a lot we've done. But here's the deal. The fact is that we're talking about things that occurred a long, long time ago. And now all of a sudden, I find it fascinating.
A long, long time ago?
How terrible I am on these issues. Barack Obama knew exactly who I was. He had 10 lawyers do a background check on everything about me on civil rights and civil liberties, and he chose me and said it was the best decision he made.
Thank you, Mr. Vice
I'll take his
President.
judgment.
Mr. Yang?
What? That happened a long, long time ago.
I would trust anyone on the stage much more than I would trust our current president on matters of criminal justice. We cannot tear each other down. We have to focus on beating Donald Trump in 2020. I want to share a story that a prison guard, a corrections officer in New Hampshire said to me. He said we should pay people to stay out of jail because we spend so much when they're behind bars. Right now, we think money, we just end up spending the money in much more dark and punitive ways. We should put money directly into people's hands, certainly when they come out of prison, but before they go to prison.
Thank you, Mr. Ian. I want to bring in Senator Gillibrand.
Wow.
You heard earlier
Is Tulsi going to talk at all?
Secretary Castro on the question
God almighty, Tulsi.
who killed
She's losing points with me, I got to be honest.
the NYPD. Was that
In 2014, there was no indictment. The Obama Justice Department didn't do a damn thing about that. But it happened a long time ago, I guess. That's all right.
And I can tell you, when you've lost your son, when he begged for breath, when you know because you have a video, when you know he said, "I can't breathe," so many times over and over again, when you know he used an illegal chokehold, that person should be fired. And if I was the mayor, I'd fire him. But as president, I would make sure that we had a full investigation. That the
Yeah, you didn't answer the question, de Blasio. You didn't fire him. You're trying to blame Trump. It's the same silly thing you guys do. You blame Trump for everything. When it happened under Obama's watch, there was no indictment in 2014, and the guy still hired and paid under your watch, Mr. de Blasio.
when you were a young child? Vice President Biden.
That's why, Ron, with your silly self, telling me that I'm a brown noser for Trump. Sorry, you don't know what it's like to be me in America. I'm not going to get manipulated by silly people like people on this stage who are trying to tell me that they're the party of the black man when all of them, this guy took part in writing the crime bill that sent hundreds of thousands of black people to jail, and de Blasio is sitting there with this guy that strangled Eric Garner on the side of the street under his employ. So don't sit there and tell me that as a black man I need to vote for any of these idiots. Kamala Harris is talking right now. She's the one that laughed and sent most black people to jail than anybody on this stage. Stop it. Ridiculous.
Would not have been in a position to nominate him for the title he now holds. And so, on that issue, we could not be more apart, which is that the vice president has still failed to acknowledge that it was wrong to take the position that he took at that time. Now, I would like to also talk about this conversation about Eric Garner, because I too met with his mother. And one of the things that we've got to be clear about is that this president of the United States, Donald Trump, while he has been in office, has quietly been allowing the United States Department of Justice to shut down consent decrees, to stop pattern and practice investigations. On that case, we also know that the Civil Rights Division, this is important, the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice said charges should have been filed, but this United States Department of
I agree, Burnman. I agree. Trump actually took some action on criminal justice to bring some relief to the black community. Meanwhile, none of the supposed Malcolm X's up here have done anything even relatively close to that. They're all in bed with stop and frisks. They're all in bed with the crime bill. You got de Blasio's got the murderous cop who didn't get indicted in 2014 under his employ. And only Trump has done anything to reverse any of this bullshit.
Country in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. And she did not, like, I didn't see a
You out your damn mind.
She brought a case against them to desegregate them. Secondly, she also is in a situation where she had a police department when she was there that in fact was abusing people's rights. And the fact was that she in fact was told by her own people that her own...
See, they're all telling on each other about how horrible they were with this criminal justice stuff.
That you in fact have been, the police officer did something that did not give you information that would exculpate your client. She didn't do that. She never did it. And so what happened? Along came a federal judge and said enough, and he freed 1,000 of these people. If you doubt me, Google 1,000 prisoners freed, Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. Senator Harris, your response?
This is simply not true. And as Attorney General of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice, I am proud of the work we did, work that has received national recognition for what has been the important work of reforming a criminal justice system and cleaning up the consequences of the bills that you passed when you were in the United States Senate for decades.
See, they're all just passing the buck.
Of creating one of the first in the nation initiatives around re-entering former offenders and getting them jobs and counseling. I did the work as Attorney General of putting body cameras on special agents in the state of California.
Can we just end this segment? Next question, please.
You took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Yep.
She blocked evidence.
Yep. Get her, Tulsi.
That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so.
Get it, Tulsi.
Prison beyond their sentences to
Get it, Tulsi.
labor for the state of California, and she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind.
Get it, Tulsi.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris.
Her response.
Thank you.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work.
Yeah.
And I am proud of
You also tried to get an innocent man
not
killed.
just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created.
Deal with what she said directly.
Inform our offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know.
Deal with what she said directly. Tulsi, go back to her. Say you didn't answer my question.
I want to bring Congresswoman.
Tulsi, get back at her.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that.
Get it.
People who suffered
Get
under
it.
your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Get it.
Senator Harris.
Get it.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed.
That's not what she said.
Anybody who is
She said you blocked evidence that would have freed him.
to face the people I have faced, to say I will not seek the death penalty. That is my background. That is my work. I am proud.
Answer the question.
You can judge people by when they are under fire, and it's not about some fancy opinion on a stage, but when they're in the position to actually make a decision, what do they do? When I was in the position of having to decide whether or not to seek a death penalty on cases I prosecuted, I made a very difficult decision that was not popular to not seek the death penalty.
Yeah, but you withheld evidence until you were forced to. Why don't you deal with that? Your lying self.
Why are you the best candidate to heal the racial divide that exists in this country today, which has been stoked by the president's racist rhetoric?
Yeah, first of all, the president's racist rhetoric should be enough grounds for everybody in this country to vote him out of office. That one thing alone should be enough.
What one thing?
Second,
What racist rhetoric?
I want to answer your question by tagging on the conversation we were just having. This is the fourth debate that we have had, and the second time that we have been debating what people did 50 years ago with busing, when our schools are as segregated today as they were 50 years ago.
Well, you had a Democrat in office for 8 years. What the hell happened? Oh, that's right. Democrats just talk about helping black people, but they don't really do anything.
And another group does. Equal is not equal. And we've got a group of K-12 schools that are good because families can spend $1 million. And you've got the Detroit public schools that are as segregated as they were. Equal is not equal. And let me tell you something else, son. I believe you can draw a straight line from slavery through Jim Crow, through the banking and the redlining to the mass incarceration that we were talking about on this stage a few minutes ago. But you know what other line I can draw? 88% of the people in our prisons dropped out of high school. Let's fix our school system and maybe we can fix the prison pipeline that we have.
True.
That's a good point.
He's right. He's right.
Governor Inslee, please respond.
You know, I approach this question with humility because I have not experienced what many Americans have. I've never been a black teenager pulled over in a white neighborhood. I've never been a woman talked over in a meeting. I've never been an LGBT member subject to a slur. And so I have believed I have an added responsibility, a double responsibility to deal with racial disparity. We've talked on the way we do it, including ending the school to prison pipeline in my state. But I want to say this, and this is a common error, that every single senator on this stage, as much as I respect them all, they all have an enormous error which is going to prevent our party from making any progressive progress in the United States. And it is this: we are all going to work like the Dickens to get more Democrats elected to the Senate, right? We are going to do that, and I hope we're going to succeed. But if we get a majority in the U.S. Senate, because of the position of these senators, not a damn thing's going to get done. And I'll tell you why. With all their good intentions, and I know they're very sincere and passionate, and I respect them enormously, but because they embraced this antediluvial, a supermajority thing called the filibuster, Mitch McConnell is going to run the U.S. Senate even if we take a majority. We got to get rid of the filibuster so we can make progress.
What is filibusters?
That's when they just stay there for hours and hours and block a vote.
In what?
I spent 7 years running a nonprofit that helped create thousands of jobs, including hundreds right here in Detroit, as well as Baltimore, Cleveland, New Orleans. And I saw that the racial disparities are much, much worse than I'd ever imagined. They're even worse still. A study just came out that projected the average African-American median net worth will be 0 by 2053. So you have to ask yourself, how is that possible? It's possible because we're in the midst of the greatest economic transformation in our history. Artificial intelligence is coming. It's going to displace hundreds of thousands of call center workers, truck drivers, the most common job in 29 states, including this one. And you know who suffers most in a natural disaster? It's people of color, people who have lower levels of capital and education and resources. So what are we going to do about it? We should just go back to the writings of Martin Luther King, who in 1967, his book Chaos or Community, said we need a guaranteed minimum income in the United States of America. That is the most effective way for us to address racial inequality in a genuine way and give every American a chance in the 21st century economy.
Mr. Yang, thank you very much.
Because it gets you access to more capital and resources. I just don't see how that's going to work with inflation. I don't see how that helps anybody.
And I quote here, help us. Send the resources that we need to rebuild America. So what would you do for Baltimore and other cities that need help?
First of all, the president is a racist, and that was just one more example of it. We know that whether it's Baltimore or cities like Detroit, they're tremendously rich in history and culture and also in possibility. Here's what I would do if I'm president. Number one, I would invest in tremendous educational opportunity, invest in universal pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds, invest in improving K through 12 education and also making higher education available to everyone through tuition-free public state universities, community colleges, and job training and certification programs. I would follow up on the work that I did at HUD. We passed the most sweeping rule to further desegregate our communities in the United States. This Trump administration set that back. I would put that back in order. I would also invest in housing that is affordable because folks know that the rent is going through the roof, and we need to make sure that you don't have to get out of West Baltimore or inner city Detroit or the west side of San Antonio or anywhere if you want to reach your American dream. I want you to be able to accomplish it in your great neighborhood where you are.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Senator Gillibrand, what's your response?
So, I don't believe that it's the responsibility of Corey and Kamala to be the only voice that takes on these issues of institutional racism, systemic racism in our country. I think as a white woman of privilege who is a U.S. Senator running for President of the United States, it is also my responsibility to lift up those voices that aren't being listened to. And I can talk to those white women in the suburbs that voted for Trump and explain to them what white privilege actually is.
Oh my gosh! Explain to the white women who voted for Trump what white privilege is. So all the white women who voted for Trump, you guys are all racist. All of you. A whole lot of you. You didn't vote because your husband had his job shipped overseas because Obama with his TPP. No. Just because you're a racist.
It's his whiteness that protects him from being shot. That is what white privilege in America is today. And so my responsibility is to not only lift up those stories, but explain to communities across America, like I did in Youngstown.
His whiteness protects him from getting...
Youngstown, Ohio.
What?
Stories, but explain to communities across America, like I did in Youngstown, Ohio, to a young mother, that this is all of our responsibilities and that together we can make our community stronger.
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand. Let's now turn to the issue of the climate crisis. All carbon emissions by 2050 or risk facing disastrous
fires. The nonprofit in Davenport, Iowa, that was washed away in the floods. We act now. Look, climate change is not a singular issue. It is all the issues that we Democrats care about. It is health. It is national security. It is our economy. And we know
Yo, Paul, she said that she basically implied that all white women who voted for Trump need her to go into their communities and explain white privilege. Wallahi, that's what she said.
Too late is too dangerous. And we have to have
This is why the Dems are going to get their asses handed to them in the election.
We embed environmental justice. I was in zip code 48217 in the Detroit neighborhood the other day, right next to an oil refinery. Well, I know the
850 or risk,
like I did in Youngstown, Ohio. America is today. And so my responsibility is to not only lift up those stories, but explain to communities across America, like I did in Youngstown, Ohio, to a young mother, that this is all of our responsibilities and that together we make our community stronger.
Thank you.
Across America, like is today. And so my responsibility that breaks down and he knocks on someone's door for help. And the door opens and the help is given. It's his whiteness that protects him.
How it affects people, and it affects neighborhoods, big poor neighborhoods. But here's the deal. In that area, there's also another piece. 85% of it is something I helped negotiate, and that is the Paris Climate Accord. I would immediately rejoin that Paris Accord. I would make sure that we
As a white woman of privilege, shouldn't she step down so a minority could win? Right. There's like 2 black people on the stage. There's Andrew Yang. He's a minority. Forget your white privilege and just step down, Gillibrand. So there we go. Give everybody a chance. The only reason you're up there is because you're a white woman. It has nothing to do with your accomplishments. It's just because you're white. So just step down and let all the brown people go for it then.
Of global emissions. We like to act as if we're 100%, but the truth is, even if we were to curb our emissions dramatically, the Earth is still going to get warmer. And we can see it around us this summer. The last 4 years have been the 4 warmest years in recorded history. This is going to be a tough truth, but we are too late. We are 10 years too late. We need to do everything we can to start moving the climate in the right direction, but we also need to start moving our people to higher ground. And the best way to do that is to put economic resources into your hands so you can protect yourself and your families.
I was challenged by the Vice President. Maybe you heard on this for a moment.
Go ahead, Governor.
Thank you very much. Look, these deadlines are set by science. Mr. Vice President, your argument is not with me, it's with science. And unfortunately, your plan is just too late. The science tells us we have to get off coal in 10 years. Your plan does not do that. We have to have off of fossil fuels in our electrical grid in 15. Your plan simply does not do that. I've heard you say that we need a realistic plan. Here's what I believe. Here's what I believe. I believe that survival is realistic, and that's the kind of plan we need, and that's the kind I have.
My plan calls for 500,000 charging stations around the country, so by 2030 we're all electric vehicles. My plan calls for making sure that we have $400 billion invested in technologies to learn how to contain what we're doing, creating 10 million new jobs. We will double offshore wind. We will end any subsidies for coal or any other fossil fuel.
White woman in distress.
The world while we're doing it. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just to clarify, would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either.
It's ridiculous.
We cannot work it out. We cannot work this out. The time is up. Our house is on fire.
You're going to phase out fossil fuels totally. Get out of here with that mess. Charging station.
That's what I'm for.
Senator Harris, your response?
I mean, I have to agree with Governor Inslee, and I'm going to just paraphrase one of your great sayings, Governor, which is we currently have a president in the White House who obviously does not understand the science. He's been pushing science fiction instead of science fact. The guy thinks that wind turbines cause cancer, but what in fact they cause is jobs. And the reality is that I would take any Democrat on this stage over the current president of the United States, who is rolling it back to our
This guy
collective
Trump.
peril.
Hey, you gotta admit, Leah, Trump is an idiot for saying that. I shouldn't do that. God forgive me. You shouldn't speak evil of your people, but that's a problem.
He actually said that?
Yeah, he did. Windmills cause cancer.
The guarantee of a job with medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security for everyone in America. Explain how that's realistic.
So, the first thing that I'm going to do when I'm president is I'm going to Clorox the Oval Office. The second thing I'm going to do
It's gonna Clorox the Oval Office.
re-engage on global climate change. And I will not only sign the Paris Global Climate Accords, but I will lead a worldwide conversation about the urgency of this crisis. The greatest threat to humanity is global climate change. I visited a family in Iowa who water spewed into her home. Fran Parr, it tossed her refrigerator upend. All the furniture was broken, all the dishes were broken, and mud was everywhere. That is the impact of severe weather right now on families' lives. And so the truth is, we need a robust solution.
This woman is crazy.
This Cory Booker should just leave.
10 years, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. He knew it was going to be a measure of our innovation, our success, our ability to galvanize worldwide competition. He wanted to have a space race with Russia. Why not have a green energy race with China? Why not have clean air and clean water for all Americans? Why not rebuild our infrastructure?
That's a good line about China.
Actually invest in the green jobs. That's what the Green New Deal is about. Not only will I pass it, but I will put a price on carbon to make market forces help us.
Thank you, Senator. Congresswoman Gabbard, you are not a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Please respond.
Thank God.
First of all, this is personal. You can imagine I grew up in Hawaii, which is the most remote island chain in the world. So for us, growing up there, protecting our environment was not a political issue. It's a way of life. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. This is why, as a member of Congress, long before there was ever a Green New Deal, I introduced the most ambitious climate change legislation ever in Congress, called the Off Fossil Fuels Act. That actually laid out an actionable plan to take us from where we are today to transition off of fossil fuels and invest in green renewable energy, invest in workforce training, invest in the kinds of infrastructure that we need to deal with the problems and the challenges that climate is posing to us today.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Booker, what's your response? Is the job guarantee in the Green New Deal realistic?
I just want to take, first of all, a step back and say that I agree wholeheartedly with Governor Inslee. It's one of the reasons why Greenpeace ranks me and him at the top of this entire field of their candidates on climate.
Second, just close.
I want to say very clearly, thank you, man, thank you. I'll try harder. Look, the reason why is because, first of all, this problem didn't start yesterday. Science.
Well, that's because the Green New Deal has a bunch of BS in it, and it's not gonna translate well with regular American people. And she knows that.
And I stood up in national leadership, joining with other mayors to say climate change is not a separate issue. It must be the issue and the lens with which we view every issue. Nobody should get applause for rejoining the Paris Climate Accords. That is kindergarten. We have to go to far advance and make sure that everything from our trade deals, everything from the billions of dollars we spend to foreign aid, everything must be sublimated to the challenge and the crisis that is existential, which is dealing with the climate threat. And yes, the majority of this problem is outside.
You didn't miss anything. I went off on the Democrats about their criminal justice stuff, but
Senator. Mayor de Blasio, your administration has come under fire after hundreds of children living in New York City public housing tested positive for elevated levels of lead. As you know, we're not far from Flint, Michigan, where residents are still dealing with the consequences of having lead in their drinking water. How can you assure the people of Flint and across the nation that you are the right person to handle such a problem?
We have a huge problem, and it's decades old in New York, but here's what we've done about it. We've declared the eradication of all lead, literally ending the notion of lead poisoning once and for all as the goal of our administration, and we're doing something about it. Lead poisoning has gone down 90% since 2005, and we're going to literally bring it down to zero. because we're going to go into every place, buildings, schools, public housing, and take out that lead, remediate that lead once and for all. That needs to be done all over this country. Now, the federal government used to not take any responsibility for our public housing. For decades, they've been disinvesting in the public housing that was supposed to be a federal responsibility. That's part of why we have this lead crisis to begin with. But I'll tell you what you do when you're actually in charge of something. I'm in charge of the largest city in this nation. You do not accept the status quo, you fix it. And so we are going into every one of those apartments to make sure those children and those families are safe. And then we are going to eradicate that lead once and for all. And there should be a federal mandate to do the same for Flint, for Detroit, for every place in this country.
Thank you,
It
Mr.
can
Mayor.
be done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Secretary Castro, why are you the right candidate to solve this problem? Please respond.
Well, because people don't have to wonder what I would do. I've actually done it. I was Secretary of Housing and Urban Development when Flint had its water crisis. I went to Flint. We did what we could to help folks get water filters, and then we didn't stop there. We improved the standard of how we deal with elevated blood lead levels in children. A lot of Americans don't know that this is still a major problem out there. I was back in Flint about 6 weeks ago, and I released a plan to invest $50 billion so that we remove lead as a major public health threat. We need to do it, we can do it, and I will do it.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Donald Trump won independence here in Michigan by 16 percentage points, which was critical to Donald Trump winning the state's 16 electoral votes. Now there is a big debate within the Democratic Party here and around the country about the best way the Democrats can win back Michigan. Vice President Biden, last night on this stage, Senator Elizabeth Warren said, quote, "We're not going to solve the urgent problems that we face with small ideas and spinelessness. We're going to solve them by being the Democratic Party of big structural change." What do you say to progressives who worry that your proposals are not ambitious enough to energize the progressive wing of your party, which you will need to beat Donald Trump?
Because we did it. I was asked to manage an $87 billion plan to be spent in a total of 18 months that revived this state and many others, because it kept us out of a depression with 0.2% of waste or fraud. Secondly, I was part of the organization within our administration that pushed failing General Motors out, saving tens of thousands of jobs here in this state. Number three, I also was asked, as the mayor of Detroit can tell you, by the President of the United States to help Detroit get out of bankruptcy and get back on its feet. I spent better part of 2 years out here working to make sure that it did exactly that. We invested significantly in this city, in transportation, anyway, the point is we've made significant investments in this state. I expect in this city, I expect that's why the mayor endorsed me.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. Senator Gillibrand, what's your response?
To the people of Michigan,
I have no idea, sarcastic.
President Trump. I've already done it. I took a bus tour to talk about Trump's broken promises here in Michigan.
You've already done what?
He promised no bad trade deals. Not only did he not have bad trade deals, he started a trade war with China, and he just signed on to another bad trade agreement with NAFTA 2.0, a giveaway to drug companies in Mexico. I took the bus to Michigan, to Ohio, and to Pennsylvania, telling people that he has broken his promises to them. I lifted up their voices, I listened to their concerns, and I offered real solutions. And I've done this before. My first House district I ran in was a 2-to-1 Republican district. I won it twice, and I haven't lost an election since. So I can bring people together in red, purple, and blue areas.
Thank
but
you,
more
Senator
than that,
Gillibrand.
I can get things done.
Mr. Yang, in poll after poll, Democratic voters saying that having a nominee who can beat President Trump is more important to them than having a nominee who agrees with them on major issues. And right now, according to polls, they say the candidate who has the best chance of doing that, of beating President Trump, is Vice President Biden. Why are they wrong?
Well, I'm building a coalition of disaffected Trump voters, independents, libertarians, and conservatives, as well as Democrats and progressives. I believe I'm the candidate best suited to beat Donald Trump. And as for how to win in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania, the problem is that so many people feel like the economy has left them behind. What we have to do is we have to say, look, there's record high GDP and stock market prices. You know what else are at record highs? Suicides, drug overdoses, depression, anxiety. It's gotten so bad that American life expectancy has declined for the last 3 years. And I like to talk about my wife who's at home with our 2 boys right now, one of whom is autistic. What does her work count at in today's economy? 0, and we know that's the opposite of the truth. We know that her work is among the most challenging and vital. The way we win this election is we redefine economic progress to include all the things that matter to the people in Michigan and all of us, like our own health, our well-being, our mental health, our clean air and clean water, how our kids are doing. If we change the measurements for the 21st century economy to revolve around our own well-being, then we will win this election.
Congresswoman Gabbard, your response?
Donald Trump won this election because far too many people in this country felt like they've been left behind.
Thank you.
By both political parties.
Thank you.
Self-serving politicians on both sides who are more interested in partisan politics.
Take him seriously.
They aren't
Very
actually
good.
Fighting for the people. I'm speaking the truth to people all across this country about the fact that people in Flint, Michigan are still being left behind, still being poisoned by the water in their system. Because every single month we are spending $4 billion on a continuing war in Afghanistan. $4 billion every single month. Rather than ending that war, bringing our troops home and using those precious resources into serving the needs of the people here in this country. People and communities like Flint. That's the kind of leadership that I'll bring.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Booker, your response?
I'm grateful, Jake. Look, this is one of those times where we're not staring at the truth and calling it out. And if this is a case for the Democratic Party, the truth will set us free. We lost the state of Michigan because everybody from Republicans to Russians were targeting the suppression of African American voters. We need to say that. African American vote in this state had been like it was 4 years ago.
Tulsi gets up there and says, we lost the vote because we left people behind. Cory Booker gets up there and says, we lost the vote because of Russians and Republicans.
The highest performing voter group in our
Here we are.
coalition, which is black women. And so I will be a person that tries to fight against voter suppression, that can activate and engage the kind of voters and coalitions that are going to win states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
First of all, Donald Trump came in making a whole lot of promises to working people that he did not keep. He said he was going to help farmers. He said
Lowest unemployment. He just gave the farmers billions of dollars yesterday. Best black unemployment rate in the history of the country. Best Latino unemployment rate in the history of the country. That's how you're going to go and argue against him?
So-called trade policy that this president has been nothing more than the Trump trade tax that has resulted in American families spending as much as $1.4 billion more a month on everything from shampoo to washing machines. He betrayed the American people. He betrayed American families, and he will lose this election because folks are clear that he has done nothing except try to beat people down instead of lift people up, and that's what we want in the next president of the United States.
Thank you, Senator Harris. The debate is back right after this short break.
I was on mute the entire time. What I'm saying about Tulsi is plummeting in my view. I'm not a fan of how passive she is by letting herself get run over. Elizabeth Warren did it yesterday. She wasn't shrill, but she asserted herself. She was not going to let herself be get ignored and passed over. Tulsi is just sitting there. Secondly, I'm not a fan of the fact that all of her answers are written down. If you know that big tech Google that you're suing, and if you know that CNN is gonna shiv you on your time, that means you know that you've only got small sections to speak. So memorize what you're gonna say. The fact that she keeps looking down and it doesn't evoke the sort of temperament that's necessary to get into a conflict with Donald Trump and win the confidence of people that you're going to be able to lead. I just think it's terrible. No, I turned off my mic. Right, and it doesn't give confidence that she can think on her feet, which is something that you need to do. You know, when Hillary said, I'm glad that, nobody has your temperament in the White House, and then Trump responds by, yeah, you'd be in jail. Like, that type of quick thinking, I mean, that was the moment of the debate. You have to be able to do that, and Trump is going to do that in the general election debates. And you've got to be able to think quickly on your feet, and you've got to be able to match his aggression, not necessarily be shrill about it, maintain your dignity and be an adult, but you got to be able to be. I think Elizabeth Warren yesterday was a perfect example. She would not let herself get passed up. She gave other people their time, but she was going to finish what she had to say, and she wasn't going to be ignored. Tulsi is letting herself get ignored. I'm sorry. That's not a good look. You got to go for it. This is a friendly stage. This is the friendliest stage you're going to be in.
Just go and ask the folks that just received notice that they're going to get laid off by General Motors. Or ask the many folks who are sleeping on the streets in big cities and small towns across the United States. Or ask fast food workers that I joined a couple of weeks ago that are working for minimum wage and can't provide for their families or pay the rent. So the idea that America is doing just fine is wrong. Not only that, this president always likes to take credit. Like he did this. We've now had about 105 straight months of positive job growth, the longest streak in American history. Over 80 months of that was due to President Barack Obama. Thank you, Barack Obama. Thank you, Barack Obama. So, I believe that we need to invest in what will ensure that Americans can prosper in the years to come, making sure they have the knowledge and skills to.
I don't care if CNN said that they would penalize interrupting people. It doesn't matter.
Where they live, and that they have health care so that they don't have to worry about going homeless because they can't afford a medical procedure.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. I want to turn now to a question about trade and for Congresswoman Gabbard. Many saw the Trans-Pacific Partnership issue as something that would be a critical tool to deal with the rise of China. You were against it. How would you ensure that the United States is able to remain competitive against China on the world stage?
By pushing for fair trade, not trade deals that give away the sovereignty of the American people and our country, that give away American jobs, and that threaten our environment. These are the three main issues with that massive trade deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I think the central one was the fact that it gave away our sovereignty to a panel of international corporations whose rulings would supersede any domestic law that we would pass, either a federal law or a state or a local law. This is extremely dangerous and goes against the very values that we have as a country. What to speak of the fact that it would have a negative impact on domestic jobs and that it lacked clear protections for our environment. These are the things that we have to keep at the forefront as we look to enact fair trade deals with other countries to make sure that we continue to be a thriving part of our global economy.
So to be clear, Congresswoman, would you keep President Trump's tariffs on China in place?
What's a tariff?
I would not.
Tax.
Because the approach that President Trump has taken has been extremely volatile without any clear strategic plan, and it has a ravaging and devastating effect on our domestic manufacturers, on our farmers who are already struggling and now failing to see the light of day because of the plan that Trump has taken.
Vice President Biden, would you rejoin the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which, of course, the President Trump withdrew from? Please respond.
I've renegotiated. We make up 25% of the world's economy. In order either
Well, lunchtime, that's my point. Hillary beat him as far as the points go, but what everybody remembered was you would be in jail. He had the moment. That's the point.
Unless environmentalists are there and labor is there. And to make sure we equip our workers first to
Exactly, XBN. If you're debating Trump, it's a rap battle. It's not an issue battle.
Otherwise, they are going to write the rules of the road. We must have the rest of the world join us to keep them in check from abusing.
Thank you. Vice President Biden, just to
Here.
be clear,
A tariff is a tax on imported goods.
yes or no?
Oh,
I would
okay.
not rejoin the TPP
Thanks, Ben.
as it was initially put forward. I would
Okay,
insist that
so
we
Biden is
renegotiate
pro
this so
TPP.
that
So
with the
TPP is basically sending all those jobs overseas so that American job owners lose their job, which is why unbelievable.
Why is he okay with that? Why is anyone okay with that?
Unbelievable.
They're going to do exactly what they're doing. Fill the
And Trump
vacuum
closed that?
and run the table.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
Trump shut it
Mayor
down.
de Blasio, you also oppose the deal. Please respond.
Yeah, and I just want to ask this question of all the candidates, but particularly of Vice President Biden. The President Trump is trying to sell NAFTA 2.0. He's got a new name for it. It's just as dangerous as the old NAFTA. It's going to take away American jobs like the old NAFTA, like it did to Michigan. And we cannot have Democrats be party.
Of course, Shouse. Of course,
Vice President,
Steve.
I believe you're the only person on the stage who voted for the original NAFTA. Are you ready to say here and now that you will oppose a new NAFTA and that what you will believe in, which a lot of us hope for, is trade treaties that empower organized labor across the boundaries of the world and give working people power again, not
Mr.
just
Vice President?
multinational corporations?
Your response? Your response, sir?
Yes.
That's it?
No, he said, would I insist that labor be engaged? The answer is yes.
I consider that a victory.
Well, I love your affection for me. You spent a lot of time with me.
You know what? We believe in redemption, Joe. We believe in redemption in this party.
Well, I tell you what, I hope you're part of it.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question.
Biden doesn't know when he's being sneak dissed. This dude just completely sneak dissed Biden. Completely dissed him.
Ferris from Flint, Michigan, has this question. Here in Detroit, our economy has seen firsthand how technology and automation can displace workers and create uncertainty around human job security. How would you balance these disruptions created by technology with the beneficial impact of technology on our economy?
Dana, this goes to the last question you asked as well, which is how are we going to remain competitive? It's not just about trade, which we were talking about earlier. It's about whether we're going to invest in this country anymore. Since 2001, we have cut $5 trillion worth of
This Bennett guy knows his stuff, though.
has gone to the wealthiest people in America.
See, he's got his facts, he's got his numbers, and he's not looking down every 2 seconds. He practices.
Federal government. We spent $5.6 trillion in the Middle East. That's 12 or 13 trillion dollars that, from the point of view of driving the economy in Michigan or anywhere else in America, we might
Tulsi
as well
Gabbard's a
spend that
Hindu?
money on
I did
top.
not know that.
We've got to stop doing that. And we need to invest in America again. For the money that we've spent that I just described, we could have fixed every road and bridge in this country. We could have fixed every airport that needs to be fixed. We could have fixed not just Flint, but every water system in this country. We could have made Social Security solvent for my children.
Thank you, Senator.
But we did none of it because of self-serving politicians in Washington, D.C., who voted for deals that were good for them,
Senator Bennett,
but not
thank you
for
very much.
Michigan or the American
Your time is
people.
up, sir. Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang, women, on average, earn 80 cents. About
Later,
80
Burmis.
cents for every dollar.
Thanks for
earned.
hanging out, buddy.
Senator Harris wants to fine companies that don't close their gender pay gaps. As an entrepreneur, do you think a stiff fine will change how companies pay their female employees?
I have seen firsthand.
I've been
the
studying
inequities
Hinduism. It's a
in
very
the
interesting
business world
religion.
Where women are concerned, particularly in startups and entrepreneurship. We have to do more at every step. And if you're a woman entrepreneur, the obstacles start not just at home, but then when you seek a mentor or an investor, often they don't
See,
look like you.
I think this is a weakness of him. He's such an entrepreneurial, high-powered guy. He keeps talking about entrepreneurship. Most people are not entrepreneurs, bruh. That's not going to translate well with Rust Belt people.
Harassed by her boss at the diner, who might have a business idea, but right now is stuck where she is. What we have to do is we have to give women the economic freedom to be able to improve their own situations and start businesses. And the best way to do this is by putting a dividend of $1,000 a month into their hands. It would be a game changer for women around the country because we know that women do more of the unrecognized and uncompensated.
He thinks that his $1,000 a month thing is going to fix every problem in America. It's going to fix racism. It's going to fix the environment. It's going to fix everything.
Since 1963.
Yeah, I get it. Entrepreneurs create jobs, but most people are not entrepreneurs.
Fast forward to the year of our Lord 2019, and women are paid 80 cents on the dollar, black women 61 cents, Native American women 58 cents, Latinas 53 cents. I'm done with the conversation. So yes, I am proposing, in order to deal with this, one, I'm going to require corporations to post on their website whether they are paying women equally for equal work. Two, they will be fined for every 1% differential between what they are paying men and women. They will be fined 1% of their previous year's profits. That'll get everybody's attention.
Thank you, Senator.
Time for action.
Senator Gillibrand, what's your response? Will fining companies help solve the problem?
I think we have to have a broader conversation about whether we value women and whether we want to make sure women have every opportunity in the workplace. And I want to address Vice President Biden directly. When the Senate was debating middle-class affordability for childcare, he wrote an op-ed. He voted against it, the only vote. But what he wrote an op-ed was that he believed that women working outside the home would, quote, create the deterioration of family. He also said that women who were working outside the home were, quote, avoiding responsibility. And I just need to understand, as a woman who's worked my entire career as the primary wage earner, as the primary caregiver, in fact, my second son, Henry, is here. And I had him when I was a member of Congress. So under Vice President Biden's analysis, am I serving in Congress resulting in the deterioration of the family because I had access to quality, affordable daycare? I just want to know what he meant when he said that.
That was a long time ago, and here's what it was about. It would have given.
This is your guy.
No, I said I cut lines with him. I like Yang.
I did not want that. I wanted the child care to go to people making less than $100,000, and that's what it was about. As a single father, who in fact raised 3 children for 5 years by myself, I have some idea what it cost. I support making sure that every single solitary person needing child care get an $8,000 tax credit now. That would put 700,000 women back to work, increase the GDP by almost 0.8%. It's the right thing to do. If we can give tax breaks to corporations for these things, why can't we do it this way?
But Mr. Vice President, you didn't answer my question. What did you mean when you said...
Even Gillibrand is going after. Why couldn't you do that, Tulsi?
And that we are avoiding, these are quotes, it was the title of the op-ed. And that just causes concern for me because we know America's women are working. 4 out of 10 moms have to work. They're the primary or sole wage earners. They actually have to put food on the table. 8 out of 10 moms are working today. Most women have to work to provide for their kids. Many women want to be working to provide for their communities and to help people. So either you don't believe it today or what did you mean when you said it then?
In the very beginning, my deceased wife worked, but we had children. My present wife has worked all the way through raising our children. The fact of the matter is, the situation is one that I don't know what's happened. I wrote the Violence Against Women Act. Lily Ledbetter. I was deeply involved in making sure the equal pay amendments. I was deeply involved in all these things. I came up with the It's On Us proposal to see to it that women were treated more decently on college campuses. You came to Syracuse University with me and said it was wonderful. I'm passionate about the concern, making sure women are treated equally. I don't know what's happened except that you're now running for president.
So I understand.
Oh ho ho ho!
Mr. Vice President.
Whoa ho ho! He got her. He got her.
You deeply.
because she's full of shit. Because she was sitting there saying, "Oh, he's this great guy, blah blah blah," and now she's turning on him because she's running for president.
My mother worked outside.
Why weren't you saying that when you were at Syracuse with him, then, lady?
Well, he has either he no longer believes it. I mean, I just think he
I
needs to.
never believed you.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Please respond.
Well, listen, I mean, talk about now running for president and you change your position. On the Hyde Amendment, Vice President, where you made a decision for years to withhold resources to poor women to have access to reproductive health care, and including women who were the victims of rape and incest. Do you now say that you have evolved and you regret that? Because you've only, since you've been running for president this time, said that you in some way would take that back, or you didn't agree with the decision that you made over many, many years. And this directly impacted so many women in our country. And I personally prosecuted rape cases and child molestation cases. And the experience that those women have,
What's he talking about?
children have, and that they would then be denied the resources,
Let the Vice President
I
respond.
think is unacceptable.
The fact is that the senator knows that's not my position. Everybody on the stage has been in the Congress and the Senate or House.
What was a rape and incest? What is he talking about?
A Hyde Amendment in the past was available because there was other access for those kinds of services provided privately. But once I wrote the legislation making sure that every single woman would in fact have an opportunity to have health care paid for by the federal government, everyone, that could no longer stand. I support a woman's right to choose.
Oh, it's the abortion stuff. They want to kill kids.
Supported, I will continue
What part of the Constitution says you can kill a child in the womb, Mr. Biden? Which article of the Constitution says that?
Why did it take you so long to change your position on the Hyde Amendment? Why did it take so long until you were running for president to change your position on the Hyde Amendment?
Because there was not full federal funding for all reproductive services prior to this point.
Okay. Thank you. Governor Inslee, your response?
I would suggest that we need to broaden our discussion. I would suggest we need to think about a bigger scandal in America, which is that in professions and careers where women have been more than the majority, they have been almost always underpaid. And that is why this year I'm proud to be the governor who won the largest pay increase for our educators in the United States.
The one that talks about the guarantee of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Also, the Fourth Amendment, Tasco, says you cannot deprive someone of life unjustly. The Fourth Amendment. Mr. Tasco.
I want to turn to foreign policy, if we can. Senator Booker, there are about 14,000 U.S. service members in Afghanistan right now. If elected, will they still be in Afghanistan by the end of your first year in office?
Well, first of all, I want to say very clearly that I will not do foreign policy like tweet, as Donald Trump seems to do all the time. A guy that literally tweets out that we're pulling our troops out before his generals even know about it is creating a dangerous situation for our troops in places like Afghanistan. And so I will bring our troops home, and I will bring them home as quickly as possible. But I will not set during a campaign an artificial deadline. I will make sure we do it.
Jeff, if the person has already signed a do not resuscitate, then obviously yes. Furthermore, there's no correlation between abortion, which is the willful killing of an innocent human being, and pulling someone off life support, because life support is an artificial means of keeping someone alive. Pulling the plug simply leaves them to nature. If you leave a baby in the womb to nature, he will develop and he will be born. So I hope that you weren't using that as a correlation to abortion.
Nearly 300 of our Hawaii National Guard soldiers are deployed
Okay, she's going to be strong on this.
Service members are deployed there. This is not about arbitrary deadlines. This is about leadership. The leadership I will bring to do the right thing, to bring our troops home within the first year in office, because they shouldn't have been there this long. For too long, we've had leaders who have been arbitrating foreign policy from ivory towers in Washington without any idea about the cost and the consequence, the toll that it takes on our service members, on their families. We have to do the right thing. end these wasteful regime change wars and bring our troops home.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Mr. Yang.
Good, solid answer. She's got the best answer on that one.
In terms of the 2015 nuclear deal after President Trump withdrew the U.S. from the deal, and that puts Iran closer to building a nuclear weapon, the ability to do so at the very least. You've said if Iran violates the agreement, the U.S. would need to respond, quote, very strongly. So how would a President Yang respond right now?
I would move to de-escalate tensions in Iran because they're responding to the fact that we've pulled out of this agreement. And it wasn't just us and Iran, there were many other world powers that were part of that multilateral agreement. We'd have to try and re-enter that agreement, renegotiate the timelines because the timelines now don't make as much sense. But I've signed a pledge to end the forever wars. Right now, our strength abroad reflects our strength at home. What's happened, really? We've fallen apart at home, so we elected Donald Trump, and now we have this erratic and unpredictable relationship with even our long-standing partners and allies. What we have to do is we have to start investing those resources to solve the problems right here at home. We've spent trillions of dollars and lost thousands of American lives in conflicts that had unclear benefits. We've been in a constant state of war for 18 years. This is not what the American people want. I would bring the troops home, I would de-escalate tensions with Iran, and I would start investing our resources in our own communities.
Governor Inslee, your response?
Well, I think that these are matters of great and often difficult judgment. And there is no sort of primer for presidents to read. We have to determine whether the potential president has adequate judgment in his decisions. I was only one of 2 members on this panel today who were called to make a judgment about the Iraq War. I was a relatively new member of Congress, and I made the right judgment because it was obvious to me that George Bush was fanning the flames of war. Now we face similar situations where we recognize we have a president who'd be willing to be.
I agree, Merck.
We need a president who can stand up against the drums of war and make rational decisions. That was the right vote.
I blame gravity. Exactly. This guy, he looks like he came from an X-Men cartoon. He looks like one of the bad guys in X-Men.
In Iraq as a U.S. Senator.
I did make a bad judgment trusting the president saying he was only doing this to get inspectors in and get the UN to agree to put inspectors in. From the moment shock and awe started, from that moment, I was opposed to the effort and I was outspoken as much as anyone at all in the Congress and administration. Secondly, I was asked by the president in the first meeting we had on Iraq, he turned and said, Joe, get our combat troops out in front of the entire national security team. And one of the proudest moments of my life was to stand there in Afwa Palace and tell everyone that we're coming, all our combat troops are coming home. I opposed the surge in Afghanistan. This long overdue, we should have not in fact gone into Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I would like to bring in the person on the stage who served in Iraq.
This is a guy.
I'm sorry.
Biden is the one that's supposed to take down Trump.
Vice President Biden just said.
We were all lied to. This is the betrayal. This
Warren
is
has
the
the best
betrayal to the
chance.
American people, to me, to my fellow service members. We were all lied to. Told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, was working with Al Qaeda, and that this
True.
posed a threat to the American
Damn
people.
lie.
So I
Wasn't true.
enlisted after 9/11 to protect our country, to go after those who attacked us on that fateful day, who took the lives of thousands of Americans. The problem is that this current president is continuing to betray us. We're supposed to be going after Al
See,
Qaeda, but over
you
years
see how
now,
she's
not
not
only
looking
have we not
down?
gone after
This is
Al
because
Qaeda,
this
we're
is
stronger
her
today than we
issue.
were
You know, like
9/11.
how I am with abortion, I can just.
Our president is supporting
This
Al
is her
Qaeda.
issue.
Foreign policy?
Yeah, and it's particularly wars, right? So
I respect the rules, but we have to
Mayor,
stop
thank you
this
very
march
much.
to war in Iran.
We're
The
going on
Democrat
and we're going
Party
to talk
has
about
to
another
stand up
subject.
for it.
Mayor, thank you very
see,
much. I appreciate it.
see, that's what Tulsi needs to do. But when she's off her main issue, she has to go back and look at her notes.
Whether or not the president could be charged with a crime after leaving office, his answer was yes. Senator Harris, you've criticized President Trump for interfering with the Justice Department. Just last month you said if you were elected president, your Justice Department would, quote, have no choice and should go forward with the obstruction of justice charges against former President Trump. Why is it okay for you to advocate for the Justice Department to prosecute somebody, but President Trump, not him?
Well, I would never direct the Department of Justice to do whatever it believes it should do. But listen, look, we all watched his testimony. I read the report. There are 10 clear incidents of obstruction of justice by this president, and he needs to be held accountable. I've seen people go to prison for far less. And the reality of it is that we have a person in the White House right now who has been shielded by a memo in the United States Department of Justice that says a sitting president cannot be indicted. I believe the American people are right to say
stop
there's
it.
consequence and accountability.
Just
for
be
everyone.
quiet.
No one is above the law, including the president of the United
Oh
States.
my gosh. Yeah, get out of here.
My response is exactly that. I've read the report. I've read the redacted versions of the report. We have something that is astonishing going on in the United States of America. We have a president that is not acting like the leader of the free world. He's acting like an authoritarian against the actual Constitution that he swore an oath to uphold.
Check
So
my-
this is the
get my
difference
phone.
with a lot of us on this debate stage. I believe that we in the United States Congress should start impeachment proceedings immediately. And
Impeach immediately.
he is now stonewalling Congress, not allowing. They were subjecting themselves to the checks and balances. We swore an oath.
You're ridiculous, Cory Booker.
Be damned. When we look back in history,
Cory Booker says we should impeach Trump. Go do it. You will commit Democratic Party suicide for the next 20 years, you idiot.
Congress should do its job.
Senator Booker, thank you very much. Secretary Castro, what's your response?
Well, I agree. I was the first of the candidates to call on Congress to begin impeachment proceedings. There are 10 different instances that Robert Mueller has pointed out where this president either obstructed justice or attempted to obstruct justice. And I believe that they should go forward with impeachment proceedings. As to the question of what my Department of Justice would do, I agree with those who say that a president should not direct an attorney general specifically to
Exactly, Matthew. Huh?
However, I believe that the
Just beat him.
is clear, and that if it gets that far, that you're likely to see a prosecution of Donald Trump.
Thank God for Nancy Pelosi that she's not playing with this stupid foolishness.
It's obvious at this point in our history.
Praise God for Nancy Pelosi, the adult in the room. Good Lord.
I want to caution my fellow Democrats.
Where is she?
While we move in every way we
Huh?
can
Where's Nancy Pelosi?
She's the head of the Democratic Party,
American
basically.
people are out there looking for us to do something for them in their lives. And what they see
Exactly, Matthew. It's a white flag. It's saying we can't beat him. It's exactly right.
people and their lives. For example, are we really ready? And I ask people on this stage this question. Are we ready to make sure that the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes? That's something every American wants to know about. That's something they want answers to right now. So yeah, move for impeachment, but don't forget to do the people's business and to stand up for working.
You're an idiot. You're also an idiot, de Blasio.
Best impeachment is beating him in the election of 2020.
Mayor, thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I think, look, as we go forward here, we need to recognize a very practical reality, which is that we are 4 months away. We've got the August recess.
I don't care.
Then we are 4 months away.
Pelosi is stemming the tide of insanity in the party. So I know that she has her problem. But believe you me, this would be a complete and total disaster. You might guarantee a third term for Trump if they try to impeach him. She's an adult, exactly. No, I'm not voting for Trump.
You're not?
No.
I thought he was a fair president.
Who?
I thought he was a fair president.
Well, he's my favorite president now, aside from Lincoln. Lincoln's the other racist that did something for us.
You think Trump's a racist?
Of course he's a racist, but he's still doing stuff for us, so I don't care. Just like Lincoln. But I couldn't vote for him.
So didn't you vote for him last time?
I didn't vote last time.
Well, okay, who won for this time?
Remember when you were doing your whole Remember we were doing the radio show during the elections. Don't you remember?
Yeah, I was not a Hillary supporter.
Huh?
That never happened.
That's when you cried because Hillary lost?
No, I did not cry.
You did cry because
No.
Hillary lost.
Untrue.
Yeah, I could never bring myself to vote for him.
So who you voting for?
Well, if Tulsi gets it, it depends. I mean,
Vote for Yang.
Well,
It's gonna help entrepreneurs.
well, you have to figure. Well, yeah, that's gonna help us, but just because somebody helps us doesn't mean that we should vote for them because there's other things to consider other than us.
Go after me on impeachment. You know why?
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't do anything wrong.
Is there any pro-life people running for
Well,
president?
none of these people are pro-life, but you have to. We're gonna solve the pro-life issue at the state level, not the federal level. There's already historical precedent for that. But you can't just say, okay, this guy is gonna go for entrepreneurs because there are other issues. Like, we're in a much better situation than most of our neighbors, right? So we got to worry about them. I mean, that's at least my perspective.
So you're gonna who you want to vote for?
Trump is not going to get us Medicare for all. That's my issue. He's not going to get us covered. Remember when I had my toothache?
Yeah.
And I was in severe pain? I could have really been in a much worse situation if we were not where we were financially. So that's what I'm worried about. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There is this guy who I don't think I told you about this, but there is this guy who he was on his mother's insurance. He had diabetes and he was getting his insulin. Well, then he got off of his mother's insurance, so then he had to pay for his own insulin, and he died. He started rationing his insulin because he didn't have the money to afford it, and he died. So, that's why that is one for that one person I could never vote for Trump. Because he's not going to do anything to address that.
Okay. And Harris is going to take 10 years. How is she even going
Exactly.
to impose that after?
I couldn't vote for her either because
criminal justice.
Think about it. Well, the criminal justice stuff is bad, but I would hold my nose and vote for her if she had an actual robust plan for Medicare for all. Because that's what's most important to me right now, as far as on
Is
a federal
Warren
level.
for Medicare for all?
Yeah, she is. Warren is. Bernie is. I think Tulsi is, but she didn't speak long enough. So, that's my major issue is that, I can't in good conscience vote for anybody that's going to be against Medicare for all.
Oh, okay.
And Obamacare was fine, but it left 30 million people uninsured. And then Harris's plan is going to take a decade. And to your point, how is she going to enforce it after she's out of office? Obama had 8 years, and then Trump undid Obamacare in like 2 years once he got... So, unless a person has a robust plan for making sure...
Biden had a robust plan.
Biden's plan was basically to just go back to Obamacare and expand it.
Oh.
But it still left 10 million people uninsured. I mean, I'll tell you this. I think Biden's plan is better than, what do you call its plan? Harris's plan. Something takes a decade. I mean, good Lord. If it takes a decade, forget it. I'm not really clear on what Tulsi's plan was. She only spoke for 20 seconds on that. She kept looking at her paper. Tulsi, I'm very, very disappointed in her. So right now, if Warren and Bernie had a ticket, you'd probably be able to have a strong case to vote for those two.
Bernie?
Yeah. I've kind of like been a little bit disillusioned with Bernie, but still he's got a very, very strong plan.
He does?
Oh yeah. He was really the guy who like mainstreamed the concept of Medicare for all.
Oh.
He really mainstreamed. I mean, he's not the one that invented it, but he mainstreamed.
What if he gets a heart attack while in office? That's what I'm
But then
about.
you got Elizabeth Warren.
Is she gonna be the vice president?
She would be well, that's what I'm saying. Is she should be. I would want her to be the vice, and she's strong. She's not a pushover, so she can deal with the Republicans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but honestly, I don't really see a lot of hope based on the performances here. They're terrible.
What about Pelosi?
Pelosi's not running for president. Pelosi's important though because she's at least making it so that we don't end up in a what do you call it? A situation where the crazies are running the asylum. These people talking about impeaching Trump. If you impeach Trump, it'll be a disaster because you're not going to win, and then Trump is going to continue to play the victim. And and then of course when the whole witch hunt thing came out, he kept saying witch hunt, blah blah blah, and then when the Mueller report came out, it looked like a witch hunt afterwards, for sure. So anyway, I was really excited to see Tulsi. I don't know how in the world this is gonna. She's definitely lost a lot of points. Spurgeon said, when picking the lesser of two evils, pick neither. Oh my gosh. You could still just not vote, Vin. It's very possible that I'll repeat what I did last time and not vote. It's very possible, depending. I'll tell you if they stand up Biden, if Biden is the guy, I'm gonna probably abstain from voting again.
He represents can hold the American dream hostage from everyone else. We can't let them get away with it. If we're gonna beat Donald Trump, this has to be
How about the X-Men guy?
for something. This has to be the party of labor unions. This has to be the party of universal health care. This has to be the party that's not afraid to say out loud, we're going to tax the hell out of the wealthy. And when we do that, Donald Trump, right on cue, will call us socialists. But here's what I'll say to him. Donald, you're the real socialist. The problem is, it's socialism for the rich. We, here in this country, we don't have to take it anymore. We can fight back. If you agree that we can stand up to Donald Trump and we can stand up to the wealthy, then go to taxthehell.com and join us so we can build a country
This man has a website.
that puts working people first.
Senator Bennett?
Thank you. Thank you very much. What I want to say to all of you tonight is we have been here before as a country. We have faced challenges and we've actually, forget some of us tonight, how hard the people fought, how hard they worked, how hard they organized, the votes they had to take, the people they had to get to the polls to make this country more democratic, more fair, and more free. And now we have a person in the White House who has no appreciation of that history, who doesn't believe in the rule of law, who doesn't believe in the independence of the judiciary, who doesn't believe that climate change is real. I think that we have an incredible opportunity in front of us, all of us, to come together just as our parents and grandparents did before them, and face challenges even harder than the ones that we faced.
Have you ever met a Biden supporter? I have not. Very similar. Dorian was the only Clinton supporter I ever met in the flesh in the last election.
Actually, I was too. I didn't know completely though about her tailwiness, so yeah.
You're a liar. I never said this part.
Actually, this is actually pretty embarrassing, but me and her were bowing down to her because we had no idea what happened, and I just go on with whatever Dorian does, so yeah. That was embarrassing.
I think we'd be in another war, Kellen, if Hillary was in office.
For decades, we have kicked the can down the road on climate change, and now under Donald Trump, we face a looming catastrophe. But it is not too late. We have one.
Oh yeah, he cried. Tell the people the truth.
Okay, maybe I ripped his shirt and cried and put ashes in my head. Maybe that happened. Maybe.
He ripped his shirt and cried and put dust on his head.
Maybe.
Like a true Old Testament mourner.
We have to have a leader who will do what is necessary to save us. And that includes making this the top priority.
Did Toaster get to talk yet?
Barely.
On this panel, making a commitment that this will be the organizing principle of my administration, not the first day, but every day. And if you share my view of the urgency of this matter, I hope you'll join me. Because we are up against powerful special fossil fuel interests, and it is time to stand up on our legs and confront the fossil fuel special interests. Because that is our salvation, what it depends upon. So I hope you will consider going to jnz.com and joining this effort. And I will close with this. I am confident and optimistic tonight, even in the face of this difficulty. Because I know we can build a clean energy economy. I know we can save our children and our grandchildren.
What's that called?
I know
I guess
that
it was
we can defeat climate change.
L-O-A.
Donald Trump.
What is this?
This is our moral responsibility,
What's the corn state?
and we will fulfill it.
Iowa.
Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Isn't Iowa full of corn? And does it corn have ethanol, which is a natural resource?
Donald Trump has really torn
Yeah.
apart
Yeah. So why is this even a problem?
Because you can't run most of our vehicles on ethanol.
Oh really?
Yeah.
for president
Gasoline.
because I want to help people. And I actually have the experience and the ability to do that. I brought Congress together and actually made a difference in people's lives. I also know how to beat Donald Trump. He has broken his promises to the American people. I've taken this fight directly to his backyard in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania, and I'll go to all the places in this country. I will fight for your family. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter who you love. Because that's my responsibility. And I've done this before. I started out in a 2-1 Republican district. I won it twice. I've never lost an election since. And I not only bring people together electorally, but also legislatively. I get things done. So we need a president who's not afraid of the big challenges, of the big fights. There is no false choice. We don't need a liberal or progressive with big ideas, or we don't need a moderate who can win back Trump Obama voters. You need someone who can do both. And that's who I am. Please go to KirstenGillibrand.com so I can make the next debate stage.
Congresswoman Gabbard.
Later, Heimdall. Heimdall.
Here we go.
Now, Donald Trump and warmongering politicians in Washington have failed
Is the thing
us.
ending?
They continue to escalate tensions with other nuclear-armed countries like Russia and China and North Korea, starting a new Cold War, pushing us closer and closer to the brink of nuclear catastrophe. Now, as we stand here tonight, there are thousands of nuclear missiles pointed at us, and if we were to get an attack right here tonight, we would have 30 minutes before we were hit. And you would receive an alert like the one we received in Hawaii last year that would say, incoming missile, seek immediate shelter, this is not a drill. Seek immediate shelter, this is not a drill. And you would see, as we did, as my loved ones in Hawaii did, there is no shelter. This is the warmonger's hoax. There is no shelter. It's all a lie. As president, I will end this insanity because it doesn't have to be this way. I will end these wasteful regime change wars, work to end this new Cold War through the use of diplomacy to de-escalate these tensions and take the trillions of dollars that we've been wasting on these wars and on these weapons and redirect those resources into serving the needs of our people right here at home. Things like health care for all, making sure everyone in this country has clean water to drink and clean air to breathe, investing in education, investing in our infrastructure. The needs are great. As your president, I will put your interests above all else.
Secretary Castro.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you to you, Jake, Dana, and to Don, and to everybody here, and to those watching. This election is all about what kind of nation we're going to become. You and I, we stand on the shoulders of folks who have made beds and made sacrifices, people that fought in wars and fought discrimination, folks that picked crops and stood in picket lines, and they helped build the wonderful nation that we live in today. Donald Trump has not been bashful in his cruelty, and I'm not going to be bashful in my common sense and compassion. I believe that we need leadership that understands that we need to move forward as one nation with one destiny. Our destiny in the years to come is to be the smartest, the healthiest, the fairest, and the most prosperous nation on earth. If you want to help me build that America for the future, I hope you'll go to JulianCastro.com, and on January 20th, 2021, we'll say together, adios to Donald Trump.
Mr. Yang.
Somebody had to put some Spanish in there.
You know what the talking heads couldn't stop talking about after the last debate? It's not the fact that I'm somehow number 4 on the stage in national polling. It was the fact that I wasn't wearing a tie. Instead of talking about automation in our future, including the fact that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs, hundreds of thousands right here in Michigan, we're up here with makeup on our faces and our rehearsed attack lines, playing roles in this reality TV show. It's one reason why we elected a reality TV star as our president.
Wow.
We need to be
Strong. He's right.
challenges of today, like the fact that the most common jobs in America may not exist in a decade, or or that most Americans cannot pay their bills. My flagship proposal, the Freedom Dividend, would put $1,000 a month into the hands of every American adult, be a game changer for millions of American families. If you care more about your family and your kids than my neckwear, enter your zip code at yang2020.com and see what $1,000 a month would mean to your community.
I'm gonna do that.
It's not left, it's not right, it's forward, and that is how we're going to beat Donald Trump in 2020.
See?
Well, he did good. He did a good job.
First, I just want to give a lot of thanks to the city of Detroit. They're hosting us today, and one of the reasons I respect this city is because it has the kind of defiant love that I find in many American cities, including the city of Newark. And Detroit is turning around, and Newark is turning around.
That would be $37 million into our city.
Okay. Why don't you do it?
Common purpose and common cause. That's the history of this city. My mom is sitting there, who was born in the city of Detroit, born to a guy that was a UAW worker. My
Sounds like a rock. And the first song goes a rock.
in the Depression. My grandmother joined him.
Yeah, hip shot. I didn't vote last time, and if they put Biden up there, I'm not voting this time either.
What about Tulsi? She goes up there.
Obviously, you put Tulsi up there, yeah. I don't got nothing for you, Cory Booker. I didn't even want to hear words you had to say, fam.
Look at the trash.
Get out of here.
He's trying to use his charisma.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Crises in our country, and the crisis is Donald Trump, but not only Donald Trump.
You just said you wanted to
People are saying the only thing they
impeach Trump and destroy anybody's chances of beating him. Get out of here.
The way we beat Donald Trump is not just focusing on him. He wants to take all the oxygen out of the room. It's when we start focusing on each
This is
other.
really
It's
interesting.
understanding that our common bonds and our common purpose.
Oh, it's probably
to address
be
our common
because
pain is what has saved us before. It's what's going to save us now. That is the kind of leader that I am going to be as president of the United States. Not just uniting the
yeah, I'm with it. Give me my 40 acres and a mule. They didn't even ask the reparations question to the two black candidates. They did it yesterday with the white folk. But you had two black candidates on. They didn't even ask the question. I wonder why that is. Because they know it's a landmine question, and there's no way they can answer that in a favorable way. If they say, yes, they're for reparations, then they're going to alienate the majority white population who don't want to pay reparations. And if they say no, then they're going to look like sellouts to black folk. So they didn't even ask the question.
Preyed on transnational criminal organizations that have preyed on women and children. And I will tell you, we have a predator living in the White House. And I'm going to tell you something. Donald Trump has predatory nature and predatory instincts. And the thing about predators is this. By their very nature, they prey on people they perceive to be weak. They prey on people they perceive to be vulnerable. They prey on people who are in need of help, often desperate for help. And predators are cowards. What we need is someone who is going to be on that debate stage with Donald Trump and defeat him by being able to prosecute the case against 4 more years. And let me tell you, we've got a long rap sheet. We're looking at someone who passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations in this country when he said he would help working families. We've got a person who has put babies in cages and
I believe you, Gene. So what? You withheld information. A man almost got killed for it. Get out of it. GTFOH with that.
So we must defeat him and then, in turning the page, write the next chapter for our country. And that has to be written in a way that recognizes what wakes people up at 3
The person who does that is not going to be you. It's going to be Tulsi, not you.
My name is Tulsi.
Getting their children the education they need, making sure they have the health care they need.
See, all the white folks are like, I didn't have any slaves. I just benefited from slavery, but I didn't have any. I'm not paying any reparations. This is why they didn't ask the question, but they asked it yesterday. That's my point. It's the same group. It's the same panel from CNN. How come they didn't ask the two black folk the questions? This is all BS, is my point.
This most consequential election any one of you, no matter how old or young you are, has ever participated in. 4 Trump will go down as an aberration. Hard to overcome the damage he's done, but we can overcome it. 8 more years of Donald Trump will change America.
8 more years. Did you see what he just said? 8 more years of Donald Trump? We're only going to get 4 more years of Donald Trump if he's elected. This guy is getting senile. He didn't know when he was the president. He didn't know when he was the vice president. He said Cory Booker was going to be the next president. You guys said he was being sarcastic. I don't think he was. And he just talked about 8 more years of Trump. That would necessitate, what, a 3rd term? This is where we are. These are the people that they're standing up. These are the people that are going to take down Trump. I don't think Trump has ever made such a senile gaffe in all the times that he's talked or tweeted. He's said a bunch of inaccuracies, but he hasn't, like, done any of these, like, gaffes that make me think he's senile. Oh, my gosh. The guy doesn't even know the term limit. We are finished.
You're a Democrat?
I'm not a Democrat, but again... Medicare for all is that important to me.
Is that it?
That I would be willing to historically our family has been, conservative, although my mom was a big Clinton person. My mom was a huge Clinton fan. She loved him. Yeah, she loved him. Then she made my stepdad vote for him. She forced that. She did. True story. So we grew up, thinking that the Republicans were the bad guys. And then I started reading. Yeah, it's over. What a disaster this was.
Yang did pretty good.
Yang had a very strong closing statement, and he actually made me
go to his
website. Now,
does Yang believe in healthcare for all?
Biden's a hidden racist. He's not a hidden racist. He's out there with it. They're all out there with it. Okay, well... Here's my final thoughts. My final thoughts is go to yang2020.com. I'm going to put it out there for you. And you just go there, yang2020.com, and then you put your zip code in there, and it's pretty cool. I put in Beverly Hills, and he's only going to put 21 million in there. But then I put in my zip code, and it goes up to $37 million. So I don't really know the math there.
It's actually 21 now.
No, that's for Beverly Hills, not Lewiston, Maine. I don't know the math there. I'm assuming that there's probably a cap after you make like $500,000 or something a month or something like that. Okay, so we had 229 mentions of Trump. Stop with the term racism. So racism doesn't mean anything anymore in 2019. Okay, so here's yeah. I know, Jason. I'm gonna watch the what do you call it? The Ben Shapiro Andrew Yang discussion, because I'm sure Shapiro would bring up inflation and how that would work. Okay, here's my final thoughts. I agree with M. Death Fan. The winner of both debates is Trump. I agree with that. Trump is. I'm getting more and more disillusioned over the last 2 days. Secondly, Tulsi was the one that I put all my eggs in her basket. When I heard her talk by herself, she was brilliant. She was amazing. And then I said to myself, the only reason she's not getting play is because they're not giving her the chance. The fact of the matter is, she never put herself in a situation where that became obvious. She was quiet, she was docile, she was passive, and she followed the rules, which is not the way you're going to beat Donald J. Trump. You're just not going to do it. You're not going to convert those Rust Belt people into believing that you're going to be able to fight for them if you follow these rules. That was number one. CNN had a clear and obvious bias toward Miss Kamala Harris. That was obvious, especially toward the beginning of the debate when most people were watching. Most people don't have the discipline to watch a 2.5-3 hour debate. So it's clear to me that they had a plan to front load Kamala Harris at the beginning of the debate where most people would be watched. I think that Tulsi completely eviscerated her on her record with criminal justice reform. She showed herself to be and Uncle Thomasina, an absolute disaster of a human being and an absolute danger to the black community. You got to understand this. Say what you want about Trump's quote-unquote racist tweets. Trump hasn't sent anyone to prison. Trump hasn't... If this was a white person who held back pertinent information that almost got a man killed on death row. I just shot a video about the disproportionate application of the death penalty in the black community over against the white community, where the Joe Biden's crime bill was also front and center. If this was a white person who held back pertinent information until she absolutely had to, they would get skewered, and that would have been the end of their political career. She did it, and she didn't address it, and she didn't deny it. Among other things, as Tulsi said, there are way too much of these issues to even mention. So I have, and trust me, black community, none of us are fans of this woman. And anybody, if she stands up there, Trump is going to absolutely eviscerate her on her record, because all Trump has to say is, hey, I'm doing things to reverse the crime bill that Sleepy Joe and Hillary and all the rest of them pushed forth that was absolutely destructive to the black community. Meanwhile, this one used the crime bill to buttress her career, get herself up in the ranks, and send a bunch of us to jail and almost killed one of us. You think that Trump's not going to hold back on that? This is what I'm talking about. This is the identity race politics that the left tries to play to try to manipulate black people into voting for them. We saw when the criminal justice stuff came up that only Tulsi really came out and said anything. Cory Booker was a stop and frisk supporter. Joe Biden helped in the crime bill that put hundreds of thousands of us away, which was the next logical step to the war on drugs, which was specifically designed to go after us. Kamala Harris, we already know about her. De Blasio tried to put the Eric Garner mess on Trump. It happened under Obama's watch. The non-indictment that happened in 2014 happened under his watch, and he never fired the cop, but he wanted to put it on Trump. None of us are stupid. We all were there. We all saw the Eric Garner video. All of us have been tracking it. So I really, that segment about criminal justice reform spoke volumes as to why there's not a lot of things that piss me off, but one of the things that piss me off is probably well-meaning white liberals trying to tell me what I should do as a black man. I can't believe as a black man that you're saying anything positive about Trump. That's because tweets don't affect my life and don't affect the life of my sons. You know what does affect the life of my sons? The crime bill. People, crazy prosecutors who my son could be held prisoner for something that he didn't do on death row, and crazy prosecutors could actually withhold information that would send the kid to a lethal injection. That's what's important to me. I don't give a damn about tweets. So I think anybody that wants to say that the Democratic Party is a party of the downtrodden African American, whatever you want to call yourself, go watch that little segment about criminal justice reform, and then you can go back and tell me that the Democrats are the party of the black man. I thought that Andrew Yang, I thought he closed very, very well. But I felt like he was monolithic. He didn't have a holistic understanding of foreign policy, domestic policy, everything. That $1,000 a month was going to solve everything. I'm not buying it. I'm intrigued by the idea. He's a guy that I don't think is ready to be president because his vision isn't broad enough and he doesn't have the expertise. He's a small business owner. If you notice, all of his answers were about small business, empower women to have small business. I have a couple small businesses. They're not easy to run, and you got to have a certain type of personality, and most of us don't have that type of personality, so I just don't think it's realistic and it's going to translate at the presidential level. I would like him, though, to be on a ticket. I think we should just create, an AI czar or a whatever czar and make him the head of it and just leave him alone and let him tinker around in a lab with a couple $1 billion and see what he can do. But I definitely don't think he's good for president. I think the Chinese would annihilate everybody on that stage. the only person politically speaking I trust to engage the Chinese is Trump. I think Andrew Yang is just too myopic and short-sighted. But at the end of the day, we need specialists. So I would love it if Republican or Democrat, somebody picked up Andrew Yang. There are a couple no-name people that I didn't know. I'm not going to talk about them. I think Gillibrand just completely destroyed herself when she talked about white privilege, when she accused white women of voting for Trump because they were full of white privilege and they were racist is ridiculous. First of all, Hillary Clinton was white. Miss Gillibrand? So how are you going to accuse white women of voting for Trump of having white privilege when the other candidate that they had to choose from was also white? This is ridiculous. This is a stupid argument, and it's actually, if I was a white woman, I'd be insulted. Maybe those white women voted for Trump because they were in the Rust Belt and they saw that their husbands who've been working for 20, 30 years just had their jobs outsourced. Maybe they voted for Trump because they heard Miss Clinton get on TV and talk about killing coal. Maybe that's why. Maybe they read the WikiLeaks email, and maybe they read where Hillary was talking about how you have to be one way in front of shareholders and another way in front of the public. There's a whole host of reasons, Miss Gillibrand, why white women voted for Donald J. Trump. But it's got to be because they're all racist, and it's got to be because of white privilege. Ridiculous. I think she just committed political suicide, to be honest with you. De Blasio, I don't even know why he's up there. I don't think he stands a chance in any way, shape, or form. I've never heard an independent even mention his name. I talk about de Blasio with my brother a lot because he lived in New York as recently as 2 years ago. So we talk about de Blasio, but, I'm not even going to talk much about him. I don't think I missed anybody. In the last 2 days, the strongest candidate clearly is Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Now, I'm not a fan of Elizabeth Warren because I don't trust her because of the whole Native American thing. But if there was, and I'm also a bit disillusioned with Bernie because he can't even keep his staff at $15 an hour, and they're starting to revolt against him. So I think that hurts Bernie as far as credibility goes. I would love it if Bernie would address it up front and center, because that Trump is going to deal with it. So get it out in the open. Say you did the wrong thing and stop trying to get free work, which is what Bernie did yesterday. He tried to get everybody to work for him for free. I think that's terrible. You should have bit the bullet, spent some of your own money, whatever. So I think right now the two clear, strong. Now here's what I will say about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had obviously the strongest showing today. She had a lot of help, but in my opinion, she was absolutely the strongest. I don't think she made many gaffes, and I think she masterfully redirected Tulsi's attacks when Tulsi came after her with facts. I think she did a very, very good job at being a politician. Kamala Harris was clearly the best politician tonight, and I would give it to her tonight. But as far as votability goes, she's obviously, for me as a black man, she's persona non grata. So I would vote for that Williamson lady, the lady that was talking about the dark psychic energies that are plaguing our nation. I'd vote for her. That's the girl I was talking about. Yeah, I'd vote for her before I'd vote for Kamala Harris. So that's where we're at. Very, very disappointed in Tulsi. I'm not willing to, dispense with her yet, but I cannot blame her lack of saturation only on the fact that CNN obviously didn't want to center her. She has to fight for it. She has to. And I think I would have loved for her to have called CNN out on their BS and put CNN in an awkward situation where they would then have to defer to her the next time. That's how you play politics. You gotta play chess. If she would have came out there and said, thank you guys for giving me some time. Geez, I thought this was a Kamala Harris show. Like, what are you guys trying to do? Are you trying to do to me with Kamala what you guys did to Biden with Hillary? If she would have come out and said that and put them on the defensive, all of us would have loved it, right? And then the next time she was up for a debate, A, they would have to include her in the roster, and B, they'd have to give her time. These are the type of forward-thinking chess moves that Trump is a genius at that she's not very good at. I think the problem with Tulsi is that she's really not a politician, so she doesn't know how to politic. And I think she needs people around her to help her learn how to politic without compromising who she is as a human being, which I think is something that she really is important to her. But I mean, it's a dirty business, and you're dealing with Trump. You have to kind of roll around in the muck and the mire. So that's my perspective. That's what happened. So far it's Warren and Bernie close second. And then the rest of them I just think are impossible. I think it's impossible. I think Yang has great ideas, but I could never vote for him in the sense of from a holistic perspective. I just could never vote for him. But I think Warren and Bernie with Yang as the automation czar would be a strong ticket and a good way to think outside of the box. If Tulsi fights for it, she would dominate. Right? They focused on Kamala, etc., etc. In fact, the Democrats are playing checkers while Trump is... I agree. I'd vote for Jussie Smollett before Kamala. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Dorian, what's your take? Who are you looking at? Who do you like?
Okay, I like Yang, but I'm confused here. Is he gonna give people extra $1,000 a month, or just only $1,000 a month? Because that's not livable at all.
Well, you get $1,000 every month.
Extra besides after your paycheck?
Yeah, on top of your paycheck.
Okay, how is that gonna solve racism?
Well, it's not. But that's my point. Is that he thinks that's his answer for everything.
Definitely a good plan though, for some stuff, but not for racism or the climate change stuff. But yeah, I totally like Andrew Yang.
Did he convert? So who did you come into the debate?
Well, I didn't really come in. I mean, I'm not really that involved with the news and stuff, so I didn't really know anybody. But I initially was liking Joe Biden because I thought he had practical solutions, and then I started to discover, and the criminal justice system changed. That segment changed everything, and did not like Joe Biden. Put him to the Biden, Sleepy Joe, put him to the side.
Sleepy Joe.
And I was engaged in the debate more, having a more unbiased view, and I saw Andrew Yang. I really liked him. I think that Cory Booker, is that his name?
Yeah.
He was trying to use his charisma to just carry him through. I didn't like him at all. He had terrible points. Baltimore is infested with rats, and so is some places in California. And pretty sure Trump was trying to help them, not trying to insult them. So
that's my perspective. I
he
think
was just trying to, and he kept saying that they were being divided this, divided that. Yeah, you guys are divided. You guys are debating to see who's gonna be the president. Like, I don't understand what you mean. You guys are being. How else would the debate go?
Right.
Yeah, I just didn't like him, and I think he was trying to be a people pleaser. Really, that's what I didn't like. Yeah, but Andrew Yang definitely impacted me. But yeah, as far as I think he's in his little he has his hands on his eyes like this. He can't see the whole thing. I think he needs to. Maybe next year, maybe next term, he can broaden his view a little bit more and become president. But yeah, aside from that, I don't really like anyone as far as being in the Oval Office in this segment. But I want to see a little more from Elizabeth Warren to see if she's votable. That's it. That's all I'll say.
All right. Well, you heard it there first. Well, guys, thank you for joining. I got a little emotional at points. There's some topics that are obviously very, very important to me, being a man that has 3 young black sons. But I loved everybody's participation here. I'm a little sad that there's no debate tomorrow, because I'd love to do. Would you like to do this again tomorrow?
Oh man,
Wait, there's no debate tomorrow?
There's no debate
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Is there a debate after that?
I don't know when the next debate's going to be. But we'll definitely do this throughout the whole time, because I'm really enjoying this. Now, I will say that Sori knows how to kind of get this stuff mirrored so that you guys can see what I'm seeing when we're looking at the debates. The only problem in doing that is I've heard a couple people got their stream shut down for broadcasting it by CNN. So hopefully we're small enough to where that won't be an issue. But so I'm gonna shoot for that as well. But yeah, I appreciate everybody's cooperation. I appreciate everybody's contributions. They were great, very witty. Thank you guys for staying on as long as you did. I really, really appreciate it. I thoroughly enjoyed this. And yeah, that's all I got. Leah, thank you very much, Leah, for moderating the chat. So that's cool. And everybody, Matthew Maida, M-A-I-D-A, has a Facebook page where he does political rants. I'm trying to convince this brother to get a YouTube channel going, but you should really, really check him out. He's kind of like a more left version of me, but what I like about him, he's very, very, very honest, right down the middle. Has really cool ideas. I don't really endorse a lot of political channels. There's channels that I do actually listen to, but I make reference to them, but I don't endorse them. But I do endorse that channel. So check him out. He's on Facebook. He's in the chat right now. It's Matthew Maida. Also, if you want to continue the political conversation, or you've got clips of the debate that you want to rehash, Facebook.com/America Middle. That's basically the Middle America version of the Village page. So it's the same deal with the Village page as the exact same deal with the Middle America page. I'm basically separating them so that, if you're politically inclined, you can post the hell out of that and talk. There are not a lot of restrictions on that page. So as long as a person is not actively threatening bodily harm or something like that, we're just going to let it fly. You guys know I'm a big free speech person. So go there, but definitely check out Matthew Maida. I respect the hell out of him. I really, really do. And he's my brother, and I love him. So check that out. Other than that, guys, I got to go do my run again. So with that, I bid you adieu. I miss you guys. I'm gonna miss you guys tomorrow. That's for sure. To all the villagers, I think Sori is gonna be healthy enough to resume shooting again, shooting some videos. We did upload a video. Maybe you guys missed it. It's it's a Patreon pick by I don't know the name of the band, but they're on my list. I listen to them all the time when I'm running. Well, not all the time, just for the last 3 days. Paradise Lost. So those guys are up. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America. We are the media. Till next time, guys.
Bye.